Hey, if you're new to my channel, then consider liking and subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me, and honestly, it'd make my day. If you already did, thank you so much. Oh, and by the way, if you like listening to fan fiction, check out my other channel. The link's in the description.
The New Dawn of Monkey D. Luffy by Zero King Ages. Just 2 days before the start of his epic adventure, Monkey D. Luffy finds himself in an unexpected battle against a foreign soul trying to take over his body. With his unwavering spirit, Luffy fights back and manages to repel the entity, but not without consequence. In the process, he gains fragmented memories of a potential future.
The fog rolled thick across Whiskey Peak's harbor as Miss All Sunday's calculating smile cut through the darkness. Her presence alone seemed to drop the temperature several degrees, and even Luffy's usual grin faltered slightly as he studied the mysterious woman. "What an interesting crew you've assembled, Princess," Miss All Sunday mused, her eyes scanning each member of the group before settling on Luffy. "Especially your new protectors." "What did you do to Igaram?" Vivi demanded, her voice trembling with both rage and fear. Miss All Sunday's smile widened slightly. "Oh, are you sure you want to know?" "Get away from our ship," Usopp shouted, his knees shaking but his slingshot raised bravely. My, so hostile," she chuckled, crossing her arms in that distinctive way. Suddenly, multiple hands sprouted from the deck, disarming both Usopp and Zoro before anyone could react. "A devil fruit user," Nami gasped. "Hey, that's so cool," Luffy exclaimed with stars in his eyes. "You can make hands appear." "Luffy, this isn't the time to be amazed," Nami scolded. "But Nami, she's gonna be our nakama. She's Robin." Luffy grinned widely. Robin's composed expression cracked slightly. "What did you say?" "Shishishi. I know all about you. You're from that tree place and you like books and stuff," Luffy said while picking his nose. "Join my crew." "Luffy!" the crew shouted in disbelief. How do you know about Ohara?" Robin asked, her composure slipping further. "Because I'm gonna be king of the pirates. And you're gonna help us find that funny writing stuff," Luffy declared with his signature grin. "Oh, and Vivi. Your makeup guy is okay." Robin made sure he didn't die. "What?" Vivi gasped. "Igaram is alive." "Yep. Robin's not bad. She just needs friends," Luffy bounced excitedly. "And we're gonna be her friends." "Captain San," Robin interrupted, trying to regain control of the situation. "You speak of things no one should know." "Oh yeah. Like that giant ice guy who taught you to laugh, Darashishi." Luffy attempted to imitate Jaguar D. Saul's laugh, failing miserably but grinning anyway. Robin's eyes widened in shock. The crew watched as their usually composed enemy seemed genuinely rattled by their captain's words. Oi, Luffy," Zoro growled. "Are you sure about this?" "Of course. Robin's gonna be our friend. Plus, she makes hands appear everywhere, that's super cool." Luffy stretched his arms excitedly. "Hey Robin, can you make hands come out of my nose?" "This is serious." Nami bonked him on the head. "But Nami," Luffy whined, rubbing his head. "I am serious. Robin's gonna join us and help Vivi save her country from that stupid crocodile guy." Robin took a step back, her mind racing. This rubber boy somehow knew things that should be impossible to know, about Ohara, about Saul, about her past. "You're quite the interesting captain," she said, trying to maintain her calm demeanor. "But what makes you think I would join pirates I just met?" "Because you're lonely," Luffy stated bluntly. "And you want to know about that missing history stuff. We're gonna have lots of adventures and find all kinds of cool things." "Luffy," Vivi interjected, "she's working with Crocodile. She's our enemy." "Nah, she's just pretending." Luffy picked his nose again. "She doesn't like that sandy jerk either. Right, Robin?" Robin stared at the strange captain, her carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. "You're a dangerous man, Monkey D. Luffy." She. "Yep. But you're gonna be even more dangerous when you're with us. Oh, and you can read those funny stone things too." "The poneglyphs," Robin whispered. "How much do you know?" "I know you're gonna be my nakama. That's all that matters." Luffy stretched his arms wide. "So stop being sad and join us already." "This is absurd," Robin said, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. "You can't simply declare such things." "Watch me," Luffy grinned. "Oh, and that dream you have? About finding the true history?" We're gonna help you do that too. The rest of the crew watched this exchange with mixed reactions. Zoro kept his hand on his swords, still untrusting. Nami looked confused but intrigued, while Sanji was already in love-cook mode. Usopp hid behind a barrel, peeking out cautiously. Captain San, Robin said carefully, even if what you say is true, I'm currently your enemy. I work for Crocodile. Nope. You quit. Right now. Luffy declared. Because we're gonna kick Crocodile's butt and save Vivi's country. Vivi stepped forward, still wary but curious. Luffy, are you absolutely sure about this? Yep. Robin's good. She just did bad stuff because she was scared and lonely, but not anymore. He turned back to Robin. So, wanna see me punch Crocodile into the sky? For the first time in years, Robin felt her carefully maintained mask truly slipping. This boy, this impossible boy. Robin found herself caught between disbelief and a dangerous feeling she hadn't allowed herself to experience in years: hope. You speak as if defeating Crocodile is a simple matter, she said. He's a warlord of the sea, and his powers are. Don't care, Luffy interrupted. He made Vivi cry and messed with her country. He's getting punched. Luffy, Zoro spoke up, his voice stern. Are you sure about this? She could be playing us. Nope. Robin's gonna be our friend, Luffy stated with absolute certainty. Plus, we need someone smart who can read those mystery rocks. Robin couldn't help but let out a small laugh. Mystery rocks? Do you mean the poneglyphs? The stones that the world government has forbidden anyone from reading? Yeah, those. They're important for your dream, right? And for finding the One Piece. Robin's eyes widened slightly. What connection between the poneglyphs and the One Piece? Just who was he? Captain San. You're either the most dangerous or the most foolish person I've ever met. She. Probably both, but before we do anything else, Luffy continued, suddenly serious, you gotta promise something. Robin raised an eyebrow. Oh? No more trying to die. No more thinking you shouldn't exist. You're gonna lie because we're your friends now. The words hit Robin like a physical blow. How could he possibly know about her deepest thoughts, her darkest moments? Vivi, who had been watching silently, stepped forward. Luffy, I understand wanting to help people, but she's been working with Crocodile to destroy my country. And now she's gonna help save it, Luffy declared. Right, Robin? Robin found herself at a crossroads. 20 years of survival instincts screamed at her to run, to maintain her walls, to trust no one. But something about this boy's unwavering certainty made those walls crack. And what if I refuse? She asked softly. Not gonna happen, Luffy grinned. Because you already know we're right. Plus, you're curious about how I know stuff, aren't you? For the first time in decades, Nico Robin felt cornered not by enemies, but by the possibility of friendship. Very well, Captain San, Robin said, a small smile playing on her lips. Great. And I already know how to beat him, Luffy grinned, punching the air excitedly. Oh, and how do you plan to fight someone who can turn into sand? Robin asked, genuinely curious about his confidence. That's a secret, Luffy said with his characteristic laugh. But sand or not, I'll kick his ass. Robin's eyes narrowed slightly, studying him. His confidence seemed different from the usual bravado of pirates she'd encountered. But first, Robin, what's Crocodile planning with the bomb? This time it was Robin who looked surprised. How did you? She paused, studying Luffy carefully. Yes, there is a bomb. One powerful enough to destroy all of Alubarna. It's set to detonate during the height of the rebellion. Then we better hurry, Luffy declared. Zoro, Sanji. You guys help Vivi stop the rebels. I'll handle Crocodile. Are you sure about going alone, Luffy? Nami asked, concerned. Don't worry, I'm way stronger than what I mean, than he thinks. Luffy caught himself. Plus, Robin's GHT. There are 2 routes to Alabasta, Robin explained, holding up 2 eternal poses. One through Little Garden, and a safer route that bypasses it. Little Garden, Luffy declared instantly, grinning. Robin raised an eyebrow, curious about his quick decision. You should know, Little Garden is a trap set by Crocodile. It's an ancient island where prehistoric creatures still roam. Many pirates have died there. She. Sounds fun. Plus, Luffy's expression turned slightly more serious. There are 2 giants there who need help, right? Robin's eyes widened slightly. This was information she hadn't expected him to know. Dory and Brogy, you know about them? Yep. They're awesome. And that weird wax guy and the paint lady are there too. But we can handle them, Luffy said confidently. Mr. 3 and Miss Goldenweek, Robin confirmed, increasingly intrigued by Luffy's knowledge. You seem very well informed, Captain San. Let's just say I've got a good feeling about it, Luffy grinned, to Little Garden. In Rain Dinner's casino, Crocodile sat in his darkened office, the aquarium walls casting eerie blue shadows across his face. The Den Den Mushi before him wore an expression of pure terror. What do you mean you've lost contact? Crocodile's voice was deadly quiet. Sir, Miss All Sunday was last seen at Whiskey Peak, but since then, nothing. The Straw Hats escaped, and Princess Vivi is still with them. Crocodile's eyes narrowed as he took a long drag from his cigar. Miss All Sunday had never failed to report in before. Something wasn't right. And the unluckies? We only got 3 of the crew picture. Responses from them either, sir. It's like they vanished. The warlord's hook scraped slowly across his desk, leaving deep gouges in the wood. A rookie crew from East Blue causing this much trouble. How? Interesting. He stood, walking to the aquarium wall. His reflection distorted in the rippling water as he contemplated this development. Miss All Sunday was too careful, too calculating to simply fail. Which meant, Mr. 2, he spoke into another Den Den Mushi, Yees. Find that ship. I want to know exactly what happened at Whiskey Peak and after that go Little Garden Island to deliver the eternal pose of Alabaster to Mr. 3. And if you encounter Miss All Sunday. His voice hardened, watch her carefully. After disconnecting, Crocodile stared at the ceiling, smoke curling from his cigar. 20 years of partnership, and now this silence. What game was Nico Robin playing? Your survival instincts have never failed you before, he muttered. So why aren't you reporting in? Back at Going Merry. How can you trust her so easily? Vivi finally burst out, her fists clenched. Do you know how many people have suffered because of Baroque works? How many of my people have died? Robin's eyes met Vivi's and for a moment, the princess saw something unexpected, regret. Your Highness, Robin said softly, you have every right to your anger. But perhaps you should ask yourself why someone would ally themselves with Crocodile while knowing his true intentions for your country? That's because you're searching for something else. Luffy chimed in. Those stone thingies. Robin's calculating gaze shifted to Luffy again. Captain San, your knowledge is troubling. Tell me, how does a rookie pirate from East Blue know about the poneglyphs? About Ohara? About Saul? Those stone thingies, Luffy said, then tilted his head thoughtfully. But that's not what you want to know about. It was something about a weapon. What was it again? He crossed his arms and frowned, genuinely trying to remember. Robin's eyes widened slightly. For someone to know even that much about her true quest. Captain San, you continue to be more mysterious with each passing moment. How could you possibly know about? Forget it. Luffy waved his hand dismissively. My head hurts when I think too hard. What matters is you're gonna be our Nakama. Vivi watched this exchange with growing confusion. Weapon? What weapon? What are these stones you're talking about? That's not important right now, Robin interjected smoothly, though her eyes kept darting back to Luffy with intense curiosity. What matters is the immediate threat to your country. The bomb in the clock tower needs to be dealt with. Right. Luffy punched his palm. First we save Vivi's country, then we go on more adventures, and Robin comes with us. I haven't agreed to that yet, Captain San, Robin said with a small smile. She. But you will, Luffy grinned with absolute certainty. Robin felt that dangerous hope growing stronger in her chest, even as her mind raced with questions. This boy somehow knew about her search for the truth, about the poneglyphs, and even hinted at knowledge of ancient weapons. Yet he acted as if none of that mattered compared to having her join his crew. Who exactly was Monkey D. Luffy? And how did he know so much while seeming to know so little? Oh yeah. Luffy suddenly exclaimed, as if remembering something important. That punk guy said your friend Saul is alive. He's in the land of giants or something. Don't know how he survived though. Robin froze completely, her usual composed demeanor shattering for a moment. What did you say? Her voice trembled slightly. Jaguar D. Saul is alive? Yep. The guy with the weird hair said so. Luffy nodded, grinning. He's a giant, right? The one who laughed funny. Robin's hands shook as she brought them to her mouth. Tears began forming in her eyes. That's impossible. I saw him. Aokiji. She. The giants are tough. We can go visit him after we kick Crocodile's ass, Luffy chirped as if planning a casual trip. This news seemed to affect Robin more than anything else that had happened. The possibility that her dear friend, the one who taught her to laugh, might still be alive. The conversation gradually died down as everyone processed the weight of these revelations. Robin excused herself to collect her thoughts, while the rest of the crew prepared the ship for the night's journey. As the hours passed, the stars wheeled overhead, each lost in their own contemplations about their mysterious new ally. Dawn broke over the Grand Line as the Going Merry sailed steadily away from Whiskey Peak. The crew gathered in the galley, where Sanji prepared breakfast. "Meat!" Luffy shouted, diving for the plates Sanji was setting down. "Ladies first, you rubber idiot!" Sanji kicked Luffy away from Nami and Vivi's portions, then placed an elegant plate in front of Robin with a flourish. A delicate fruit parfait for the lovely Robin Schwan. "Thank you, Cook-san," Robin replied politely. The usual breakfast chaos ensued. Luffy stealing food from everyone except the ladies. After several kicks from Sanji, Usopp protecting his plate with elaborate traps, and Zoro quietly eating while keeping one eye on their new passenger. Once the dishes were cleared, Nami spread a map across the table. "Alright, we need to discuss our route to." A loud snore interrupted her. Luffy had fallen asleep, face down on the table. "Why do you even bother asking for a strategy meeting?" Nami punched him on the head. Zoro leaned against the wall, only half listening as Nami and Vivi discussed navigation routes. His attention was divided between watching Robin and planning his training routine for the day. "As I was saying," Nami sighed, pointing at the map, "we need to navigate through these waters carefully. The Marines will be looking for us after Whiskey Peak." Vivi nodded, and Baroque Works agents could be anywhere. Robin, sipping her coffee, added, "They have several bases along this route. I can mark them for you." While Nami, Vivi, and Robin discussed the details, Usopp was sketching new ammunition designs, and Sanji was cleaning up the kitchen. Zoro had his eyes closed but wasn't fully asleep, and Luffy continued snoring loudly. Later on deck, Zoro was in the middle of his weight training, massive weights in each hand, sweat dripping down his face. 2,998. 2,999. 3,000. Enticing his punches against the air, occasionally stretching his arms to test new angles. "Hey Zoro, watch this new move I thought of." "Not now, Luffy. I'm concentrating," Zoro grunted, moving to his next set. From her deck chair, Robin observed them with interest, a book in her lap. She was particularly intrigued by their training methods, making mental notes about their fighting styles. "Watch this," Luffy grinned, his arm turning black as he playfully jabbed at Usopp, who yelped and somehow sensed it coming. "I felt that before it happened," Usopp exclaimed, then puffed up proudly. "The great Captain Usopp's observation haki is improving." "You mean my teaching is improving," Luffy corrected with a laugh. Robin's eyes widened slightly. "What is that strange power, Captain San?" At the same time, Vivi gasped as she watched Zoro and Sanji sparring, their leg and swords occasionally flickering with the same black sheen. "I've never seen anything like this before. It's called haki," Nami explained, looking up from her maps. "Luffy's been teaching us." Those two monsters picked it up pretty quickly, though nowhere near Luffy's level. She. "That's because I'm amazing," Luffy grinned proudly. "But wait till you see this." Suddenly, a small pebble flew towards Usopp, who yelped and dodged it at the last second. "I felt it coming," Usopp exclaimed, surprised at his achievement. "See, the great Captain Usopp Sama's student is getting better," Luffy declared, making Usopp puff up with pride before realizing what Luffy said. "Wait, aren't you the teacher?" "Fascinating," Robin mused. "These abilities are rarely seen outside the New World." "The New World?" Nami asked, confused. She. "Maybe I'm from the future," Luffy joked, then froze. "I mean, Luffy." Nami's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Oh look, a mystery bird. Adventure time." Luffy pointed dramatically before running off. "Get back here and explain properly," Nami yelled, chasing after him. Robin watched with amusement as their captain fled from his navigator, occasionally throwing out more outlandish explanations like, "I learned it from a mystery old man," and, "Maybe I'm a genius." "He's impossible," Nami sighed, giving up the chase and returning to the group. "Sanji, food," Luffy's voice echoed from somewhere on the ship. "TCH, always thinking with his stomach," Sanji muttered, but his leg still maintained its black sheen as he walked towards the kitchen. "Dinner will be ready soon anyway." Speaking of dinner, Robin turned to Vivi. "I noticed you've been watching the training quite intently, Princess San." Vivi nodded earnestly. "Yes, if such power exists, maybe it could help against Crocodile?" She. "Don't worry about that." Luffy suddenly reappeared, hanging upside down from the mast. "I already know how to beat him." "You do?" Both Vivi and Robin looked surprised. "Yep, water makes him solid, and this," he hardened his arm again, "can hit him even when he's sand. Plus," he grinned mysteriously, "I might know some of his weaknesses." "How could you possibly," Robin started, but Luffy was already swinging away. "Because I'm gonna be the Pirate King, she. Zoro, who had been quietly observing, smirked. "That's our captain for you, always full of surprises." "Too many surprises," Nami muttered, still suspicious. "Sometimes I wonder if he's the same rubber brain who set sail from Fuchsia Village." "Sanji, is the meat ready yet?" "Wait 5 minutes, you rubber idiot." The crew watched as their captain bounced around the ship, somehow managing to seem both impossibly wise and completely childish at the same time. As dinner wound down, the usual chaos of the Straw Hat crew filled the galley. Luffy was still trying to steal food, while Sanji kicked his rubber hands away from Nami and Robin's plates. Shishi. "Come on Sanji, just one more piece. You've had enough." Vivi watched the scene with a mixture of amusement and wonder. These pirates who carried such mysterious power, and seemed to know more than they should. Yet they were still the same warm-hearted crew that promised to save her country. Looking out the window at the starlit sea, she smiled. Whatever secrets they held, whatever strange power this Haki was, she knew one thing for certain: she could trust in their strength. "To Alabasta," Luffy suddenly shouted, raising his mug. "To Alabasta." The crew cheered in response. The Going Merry continued its journey through the Grand Line, carrying its crew toward their next adventure. The Going Merry sailed smoothly through the Grand Line's unpredictable waters, each crew member focused on their tasks. The sound of Zoro's weights clanking mixed with the gentle splash of waves against the hull, while Sanji's humming drifted from the kitchen as he prepared snacks for the ladies. At a table near the back of the ship, Robin sat with Nami and Vivi, her coffee cup warming her hands as she listened intently to their navigator's tale. "Navigator San, can you tell me about your journey to Whiskey Peak?" Robin asked, her archaeologist's mind collecting every detail. Nami glanced at Vivi, who seemed uneasy around Robin but couldn't hide her curiosity. "Well, I suppose there's no harm in it." She recounted their adventures, from Buggy the Clown to their escape from Logia Town, carefully omitting certain details about their captain's background. As she spoke, Robin noticed patterns emerging, moments where Luffy seemed to know exactly what to do, decisions that seemed random but proved crucial. A loud crash suddenly interrupted their conversation as Luffy came hurtling into their table, scattering cups and saucers. "Luffy!" Nami shouted while Vivi jumped back in surprise. Sanji burst from the kitchen, his leg already raised for a kick. You shitty rubber, but his kick met no resistance, passing through Luffy as if he had no strength at all. "Oi, what's wrong?" Zoro called from across the deck, his training forgotten. "I can't move," Luffy mumbled weakly, face down on the deck. "Tried something new, didn't work right." "What kind of technique could leave you in this state, Captain San?" Robin asked, genuinely intrigued. "Gear Fourth," Luffy managed to say. "If I master it, even Crocodile wouldn't stand a chance." Robin's eyes widened slightly. She'd seen Crocodile fight many times and knew his true strength. For Luffy to speak so confidently about defeating him. "How long will you be like this?" Nami asked, concerned despite her irritation. "About 30 minutes, Luffy grinned weakly. "Worth it though, almost had it this time." Robin's mind worked rapidly as the crew fussed over their immobilized captain. This gear fourth, it wasn't just some random technique. Luffy spoke of it like something he knew would work once mastered. Later, in the kitchen, Robin sat alone with her thoughts, piecing together everything she'd observed. Knowledge of classified history, understanding of advanced combat techniques, confidence about future events, and occasional slips about things that hadn't happened yet. The important to make sure what he said about Saul isn't a lie, for if it is, then hell will be the place he wishes to visit. A theory began forming in her mind, one that seemed impossible yet explained so much, but before she could pursue that line of thinking. "Robin." Luffy's voice called from outside, apparently recovered. "Come watch me try again." "You're not trying that technique again today," Nami's voice followed. "But Nami." "No," Robin smiled despite herself. Whatever secrets their captain held, one thing was certain: life aboard the Going Merry would never be dull. Meanwhile, in Rainbase, Crocodile sat in his darkened office, smoke curling from his cigar as he contemplated recent events. Miss All Sunday's disappearance couldn't be a coincidence. Not with these rookie pirates suddenly appearing and interfering with my operation. "Sir," a subordinate entered nervously, still no word from Miss All Sunday. Crocodile's hook scraped across his desk. "Keep searching, and start changing everything in the organization. Start small, then change the big things. And double the bounty on Straw Hat Luffy's head. Something tells me he's more dangerous than he appears." Back on the Merry, Robin watched as Luffy attempted to sneak another try at his new technique, only to be caught by both Nami and Sanji. "Devil fruit," she mused silently. Or perhaps, her eyes narrowed thoughtfully as she watched their captain's antics. Whatever the truth was, she intended to find out. While the commotion with Luffy's training continued on deck, Usopp sat in his workshop area with Karoo, working on some new ammunition. The duck watched curiously as Usopp mixed different compounds. "See, Karoo? These special pellets will help us against stronger enemies," Usopp explained, holding up a red sphere. "Though I'm not sure why I feel like we'll need them so soon." "Quack?" Karoo tilted his head, noting Usopp's troubled expression. "It's weird, you know," Usopp continued, lowering his voice. "Luffy keeps doing things like he knows what's coming. Like when he warned us about Mr. Three's wax powers before we even met him. And now this Gear 4 thing." "Quack quack." Karoo nodded vigorously, remembering how Luffy had somehow known about Baroque Works operations in surprising detail. "Maybe I'm overthinking it," Usopp sighed, returning to his work. "But as the crew's brave warrior, it's my duty to be prepared for anything, right, Karoo?" "Quack." Karoo saluted, making Usopp laugh. Their conversation was interrupted by another crash from above, followed by Nami's angry shouts and Sanji's threats. "Sounds like our captain's at it again," Usopp chuckled. "Come on, Karoo, let's make sure he hasn't broken anything important this time." The duck followed Usopp up to the deck, both of them ready to help however they could, even if that meant just keeping their mysterious captain from overdoing it again. "Understood. Here's a revised continuation that incorporates your feedback." As Usopp and Karoo emerged onto the deck, they were greeted by the familiar sight of Luffy being scolded by Nami and Sanji. "I told you, no more Gear 4 today," Nami shouted, her fist raised threateningly. "You're nowhere close to mastering it yet." "But Nami, I can't master it without using it," Luffy protested, his rubbery body sprawled on the deck. "I just need to get a little stronger." Sanji let out an exasperated sigh. "Yes, Luffy using Gear 4 could provide you with an advantage when facing stronger opponents in the future. However, we can't have you collapsing in the middle of a fight." Usopp approached cautiously, Karoo waddling beside him. Is everything okay?" Nami turned to them, her expression softening slightly. "Oh, Usopp. Luffy's just being his usual reckless self. He keeps trying to use this Gear 4 technique, even though he's nowhere close to mastering it." "Gear 4, huh?" Usopp mused, glancing at their captain with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "That sounds intense." "You have no idea," Zoro chimed in, sheathing his swords as he joined the group. "Whatever it is, it takes a huge toll on him." Luffy pouted, his rubbery cheeks puffing out. "But I was so close to getting it right this time." Vivi, who had been observing the exchange quietly, spoke up. Luffy, I appreciate your effort, but I don't want you to sacrifice yourself for me or my kingdom. Don't worry, Vivi, Luffy interrupted, his usual grin returning. This isn't for Alabasta, but so I can protect my Nakma, from anyone. Luffy's eyes remained fixed on the horizon, a determined glint in his gaze. He knew that with or without Gear 4th, he had the power to defeat Crocodile and save Alabasta. But the future battles he had glimpsed were a constant reminder that he needed to keep pushing his limits. I'll master Gear 4th eventually, Luffy thought to himself, and that will only be the start to gain the strength to protect my Nakma. With renewed resolve, he turned his attention back to his crew, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Somewhere in the Grand Line, a large, heavily armed ship features cannons, a spacious deck for troops, and a distinctive white and blue color scheme. Smoker and Tashigi are on board trying to track the Straw Hat, but they don't hear any news on them, and the only signal they were able interference turned failed as the signal changed. Now, we don't have any choice, we to go to Hina for help. Smoker let out a frustrated sigh, his cigar smoke curling around him. For Hina's location, we're going to need her help to track down those Straw Hat pirates. Tashigi's eyes narrowed, a determined glint in her gaze. Yes, sir. And this time, I won't let Roronoa Zoro slip through my fingers. I need to capture him and reclaim the Wado Ichimonji sword. Smoker glanced at his subordinate, understanding the importance of that particular blade to her. Very well. Hina's intelligence network may be the only way we can stay one step ahead of Straw Hat Luffy and his crew. We'll need to work together to achieve both our goals. The marine ship turned, its powerful engines propelling it toward a new destination. Smoker knew that Hina was not someone he particularly enjoyed working with, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Hina's information may be the key to finally capturing the Straw Hats, Smoker muttered, his gaze fixed on the horizon. That kid Luffy has been slipping through our fingers far too easily. As the vessel sailed onward, Smoker couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. The Straw Hats had proven to be a formidable foe, and he knew that confronting them head-on would be no easy task. But with Hina's help and Tashigi's determination to reclaim the Wado Ichimonji, perhaps they would finally have the upper hand. We'll catch you, Straw Hat, Smoker said, his voice low and resolute, even if it's the last thing we do. The ship continued its course, cutting through the waves of the Grand Line as it headed towards its rendezvous with the elusive and powerful Marine captain, Hina. In going merry, Robin, who after a week, finally has all the information about Luffy's journey. The sea breeze gently ruffled the pages as she dove into her theories about their mysterious captain. First, devil fruit. Perhaps an unknown fruit that allows glimpses of possible futures or past events. But this seemed unlikely as Luffy already possessed the Gomu Gomu no Mi's powers. Second, prophetic dreams are a powerful one. Third, the most outlandish yet increasingly plausible theory. His specific knowledge of events, people, and places he shouldn't know about, combined with occasional slips about future events. As the Going Merry approached Little Garden, the prehistoric island's dense jungle loomed before them. Steam rose from various points in the vegetation, and distant roars echoed across the water, making Usopp's knees shake. Those aren't normal animal sounds, right? Usopp stammered, clutching his slingshot. Of course not, this is Little Garden. Luffy grinned excitedly. It's full of dinosaurs and giant warriors. Dory and Brogy are awesome. Nami shot him a suspicious look. How do you know their names already? Before Luffy could respond, a massive shadow passed overhead. The crew looked up to see a huge pterodactyl circling their ship. Everyone, get ready, Zoro said, hand on his swords. Looks like we're about to have company. Wait, Robin interrupted, her eyes fixed on Luffy. Captain San, you seem very familiar with this island. What else should we expect? Luffy's expression turned serious for a moment. Mr. 3 and Miss Goldenweek are here. They're gonna try to trap us in wax. And he hesitated, glancing at Nami. We need to be careful about getting sick here. Sick? Nami asked, concerned. Just trust me, Luffy said firmly. No one goes anywhere alone. And if anyone feels even a little fever, tell Chopper right away. Oh wait, we don't have Chopper yet. He caught himself too late. Robin's eyes narrowed at this slip. Who was Chopper? And how did their captain know so much about what awaited them? A tremendous crash interrupted her thoughts as something massive moved through the jungle ahead. The sound of clashing weapons echoed across the island, accompanied by booming laughter. Gababa, Gegya, the giants. Luffy exclaimed joyfully. They're still fighting, come on, let's go meet them. Luffy, wait, Nami called him. I'll keep an eye on him, Zoro sighed. Stop, you moron, Nami snapped, her voice cutting through the air like a whip. Do you want us to end up searching for 2 people instead of 1? Sanji-kun, you go. Sanji's eyes widened with concern, his usual suave demeanor momentarily faltering. But Nami-san, he protested, his voice filled with genuine worry. Who's going to protect you and the ladies if I'm gone? I can't bear the thought of leaving you unguarded. Nami sighed, a hint of appreciation for Sanji's devotion. You are right, she relented, her tone softening slightly. Usopp, Zoro, you both go. And Usopp, she added, her eyes narrowing with a mix of authority and concern. Make sure this idiot doesn't get lost. Zoro grunted, crossing his arms with a smirk. Who are you calling an idiot? I think I have prehistoric island fever, Usopp trembling in fear. It's a condition that only affects those with exceptional bravery. My body can't handle the sheer excitement of being on an island with dinosaurs and giants. I might break out in hives or start seeing double. Nami crossed her arms, unimpressed. Just go, she commanded, pointing back towards the jungle. As Luffy and Usopp bounded off the ship, Zoro reluctantly followed, grumbling about babysitting duties. The dense jungle of Little Garden loomed before them, filled with the sounds of prehistoric life. Stay close, Usopp, Zoro called, keeping a wary eye on the surrounding foliage. This place is crawling with things that could eat you in one bite. Usopp gulped, clutching his slingshot tightly. I know, but Luffy seems so excited. Luffy, meanwhile, was already racing ahead, his laughter echoing through the trees. Come on, guys. The giants are this way. Back on the Going Merry, Nami, Sanji, and Robin watched the trio disappear into the jungle. Do you think they'll be okay? Vivi asked, her worry evident. With Luffy leading the way, who knows? Nami sighed, though there was a hint of fondness in her voice. But Zoro and Usopp will keep him in check. Sanji lit a cigarette, leaning against the railing. And if they run into trouble, we'll be ready to back them up. Robin, still pondering Luffy's mysterious knowledge, turned to Nami. Navigator-san, do you ever wonder how your captain knows so much about places he's never been? Nami hesitated, glancing at the jungle where Luffy had disappeared. All the time. But with Luffy, you just learn to go with it. Meanwhile, deep in the jungle, Luffy skidded to a halt, his eyes wide with excitement. Before them stood 2 massive figures locked in combat, their laughter booming across the island. Dory, Brogy, Luffy shouted, waving his arms. Hey, over here. The giants paused, turning their attention to the tiny figures below. Dory, the larger of the 2, squinted down at them. Who are you, little ones? We're pirates, Luffy declared proudly, and we're here to see your awesome fight. Brogy let out a hearty laugh. Gababa, brave little warriors, aren't you? Usopp, trembling slightly, managed a shaky smile. Why yeah, we're, really impressed by your strength. Zoro crossed his arms, studying the giants with interest. So, how long have you 2 been fighting? 100 years, Dory boomed, his voice filled with pride. A battle of honor that will continue until one of us falls. Luffy's eyes sparkled with admiration. That's so cool, I want to see who wins. As the giants resumed their duel, Luffy and his companions watched in awe, the ground shaking with each clash of their weapons. But lurking in the shadows, Mr. 3 and Miss Goldenweek observed the scene with calculating eyes. Looks like our targets have arrived, Mr. 3 smirked, adjusting his glasses. Time to put our plan into action. Miss Goldenweek nodded, her paintbrush poised. Let's make sure they don't leave this island. On the other side of the island, a ship with a swan's head was white. Another feature was hand-operated paddle wheels. The Swanda has Okama Way written on the sail. It is Mr. 2's ship. As Mr. 2 goes inside of jungle to find Mr. 3, he instead finds Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine, he island to redeem themselves after their failure at Whiskey Peak. "Ah, Mr. 5, Miss Valentine." Mr. 2 greeted them with a theatrical bow. "What brings you to this prehistoric paradise?" Mr. 5 scowled, his pride still wounded from their previous defeat. "We're here to prove ourselves to the boss. We can't let those straw hats make a fool of us again." Miss Valentine nodded, her expression determined. "We'll capture them this time, no matter what." Mr. 2 chuckled, his eyes glinting with amusement. Well, it seems we have a common goal. Let's see if we can make this little adventure entertaining." As the three agents plotted their next move, the Straw Hat crew remained unaware of the danger closing in. But with Luffy's wearing, there was no danger except from the new player in the game. Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp stood on the lush, green island, their eyes fixed on the two colossal figures before them. Dory and Brogy, the legendary giant warriors, clashed with their massive weapons, each swing creating shockwaves that rustled the trees and sent birds scattering into the sky. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the air was filled with the giants' booming laughter, a sound that resonated with the spirit of battle and camaraderie. Usopp's heart raced with excitement and admiration. He had always dreamed of becoming a brave warrior of the sea, and here were two living legends embodying that very dream. "They are what the brave warrior of the sea is," he whispered, feeling a deep connection to his childhood aspirations. Luffy's eyes sparkled with uncontainable excitement. "Yes, they're amazing," he exclaimed, his voice filled with awe. "I want to fight them too." Zoro smirked and crossed his arms. "You sure about that, Luffy? They're not holding back." "Yeah, but that's what makes it fun." Luffy grinned after the giant finished their duel, bouncing on his feet with infectious enthusiasm. He approached the giants, waving his arms energetically to get their attention. "Hey, Dory, Brogy, can I spar with you?" The giants, their massive forms casting long shadows over the trio, looked down at the tiny human with amusement and curiosity. "Gababababa, you want to spar with us, little one?" Dory laughed, his voice echoing through the jungle. "Gygya. Very well, show us your strength," Brogy agreed, intrigued by Luffy's boldness and enthusiasm. Luffy eagerly jumped into the fray, his rubbery limbs stretching and contracting as he darted around the giants. He landed punches and kicks with all his might, his laughter mingling with the giants as they playfully swatted at him. Luffy, bouncing around like a rubber ball, shouted gleefully, "Shi." "This is so fun." He stretched his arm for a punch, only to have it caught by Dory's massive hand. "Gababababa, you're like a tiny flea, little one," Dory laughed, flicking Luffy away. Luffy went flying, his rubbery body stretching comically before snapping back. He landed on his feet, eyes spinning. "Whoa, the whole island is spinning." Zoro facepalmed. "Idiot Captain." Usopp, meanwhile, was hiding behind a tree. "I think I've come down with can't fight giants disease." Despite his efforts, the giant's sheer size and experience proved overwhelming, yet Luffy's spirit remained unbroken. "You're strong, little warrior," Dory boomed, blocking Luffy's attack with ease, his massive hand absorbing the impact like a gentle breeze. Luffy laughed, even as he was sent flying by a gentle swipe from Brogy. Shi. You guys are awesome. I need to get stronger." Usopp watched Luffy's determination and the giant's camaraderie, feeling a surge of confidence and inspiration. Seeing Dory and Brogy, two legendary warriors, embody the spirit of bravery and strength, Usopp realized that being a brave warrior of the sea wasn't just about physical strength. It was about courage, resilience, and the willingness to stand up for what you believe in. Zoro noticed Usopp's thoughtful expression and gave him a nod. "Looks like you found something important, huh?" Usopp nodded, a determined smile on his face. "Yeah, I did. I'm going to become a brave warrior of the sea, just like them." Meanwhile, Robin sat in quiet contemplation on the deck of the Going Merry, her mind a whirl of thoughts and plans. "I need to find out what Mr. 3 is planning. I can't let Crocodile suspect me anymore," she thought, her mind a labyrinth of strategies and contingencies. Her abilities allowed her to gather information discreetly, and she intended to use them to remain unseen and undetected. As the Going Merry rocked gently on the waves, the sun cast a warm glow over the ship. The air was filled with the sound of the sea, a constant reminder of the adventures that lay ahead. Vivi, Nami, Kuru, and Sanji stood on the deck of the ship. Sanji, ever the gentleman, realized they needed to restock supplies, but he hesitated to leave the ladies unprotected. His protective instincts warred with his sense of duty, a conflict that played out in the depths of his eyes. Sanji, torn between duty and chivalry, spun in circles. But Nami Swan, Vivi-chan, how can I leave such delicate flowers unprotected? Nami bonked him on the head. Who are you calling delicate? Vivi giggled nervously. Sanji-kun, we'll be fine, really. Kuru quacked indignantly as if to say, hey, I'm here too. Sanji, with hearts in his eyes, Nami Swan is so beautiful when she's angry. Nami sighed, just go get the supplies before I raise your debt. As they discussed their plans, Robin quietly slipped away, her presence unnoticed by the others. She was accustomed to working alone and knew how to move without drawing attention, her footsteps silent as she disappeared into the shadows. A ghost in the world of the living. A few moments later, Nami glanced around and noticed Robin's absence. Wait, where's Robin? She asked, a hint of curiosity in her voice, her instincts sharp and her mind alert. Vivi looked around, her expression turning cautious. She was just here a moment ago. Why would she leave without saying anything? She wondered aloud, her mind racing with possibilities and her heart filled with a quiet unease. Sanji frowned, scanning the deck with a furrowed brow. Did she go somewhere without telling us? He asked, concern lacing his words and his mind filled with questions. Kuru quacked again, tilting his head in confusion, his eyes wide with curiosity and his heart filled with a quiet determination. Nami sighed, a hint of admiration in her voice. She's always so mysterious. I guess she had her plans, she mused, her mind pondering Robin's enigmatic nature and her heart filled with quiet respect. Vivi crossed her arms, and her suspicion was evident. I don't know. We should be careful. We still don't know much about her true intentions, she cautioned, her voice filled with a mix of trust and wariness, her heart torn between loyalty and doubt. Sanji, though still concerned, nodded in agreement. All right. Let's trust her judgment, but stay alert. I'll head out for supplies and be back as soon as I can, he said, his resolve firm and his heart filled with determination. With that, Sanji prepared to leave, while Nami, Vivi, and Kuru stayed vigilant on the ship, keeping an eye out for any unexpected developments and pondering Robin's sudden disappearance, their hearts filled with a quiet resolve. Deep in the jungle, the atmosphere was tense as Mr. 2, Mr. 5, and Miss Valentine met with Mr. 3 and Miss Goldenweek. The dense foliage and towering trees provided a secluded backdrop for their clandestine meeting, a hidden stage set for a confrontation that would shape the fate of the Straw Hats. Mr. 2 struck a dramatic pose, his flamboyant nature clashing with Mr. 3's more reserved demeanor. Miss Goldenweek remained silent, her paintbrush poised, ready to manipulate emotions with a stroke. Tensions rose as Mr. 2 took charge, much to Mr. 3's annoyance, a clash of personalities that mirrored the conflict to come. Mr. 2 struck a dramatic pose. Listen up, darlings. We're here to capture the Straw Hats, and I expect nothing less than perfection. Mr. 3 rolled his eyes. Could you be any louder? I think there's a deaf person on the other side of the island who didn't quite hear you. Miss Goldenweek silently painted a small sign that read, "Volume control needed," and held it up. Mr. 5 leaned against a tree, picking his nose. Wake me up when the actual plan starts. Miss Valentine twirled her umbrella. Oh come on, boys. Don't be such party poopers. Mr. 2 clapped his hands. Now, let's discuss our fabulous plan. First, we'll dazzle them with our charm. Mr. 3 muttered, we're doomed. After his sparring match with the giants, Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp took a break, sitting on the soft grass as they discussed the giants' strengths and how they could improve. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the island and creating a moment of peace in a world of chaos. So, what do you think I should work on? Luffy asked with a curious tone, his eyes wide with eagerness and determination, a thirst for knowledge and growth. Well, your hockey is at a good level in this water, Dory said, his voice deep and resonant, with Brogy nodding in agreement. But your physical strength needs work. Using those techniques drains you a lot, and you can barely stand after a little spar, he advised, his tone both gentle and firm, a mentor guiding his student. Zoro looked at Luffy with a knowing expression, his eyes filled with understanding and camaraderie. "You heard them, Luffy. Time to train harder," he said, his voice steady and encouraging, a brother in arms offering support. Dory turned his attention to Zoro, observing the swordsman with a keen eye and a sense of respect. "You, swordsman, have a strong spirit. But remember, strength is not just about power. It's about precision and timing. Your swords are an extension of yourself. Master them, and you'll find your true strength," he advised, his voice filled with wisdom and experience, a sage imparting his knowledge. Zoro nodded, taking the advice to heart. "I understand. I'll keep honing my skills," he replied, his voice filled with determination and resolve, a warrior on the path to mastery. Brogy then looked at Usopp, who was still deep in thought, his mind a whirl of inspiration and determination. "And you, a little warrior with the slingshot. Courage is your greatest weapon. Never underestimate the power of your mind and your heart. Strategy and bravery can turn the tide of any battle," he advised, his voice filled with encouragement and admiration, a hero inspiring the next generation. Usopp felt a surge of confidence from Brogy's words, his heart swelling with pride and determination. "Thank you, I'll make sure to use my skills to support my friends," he replied, his voice filled with gratitude and resolve, a promise to himself and his crew. Usopp watched the exchange with admiration for his idols. He looked at Luffy with determination, understanding why Luffy kept pushing himself to protect the crew. Seeing Luffy's strength and his desire to become even more powerful inspired Usopp. He realized that while he might never rival the likes of Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, he could strive to support them to the best of his ability, a pillar of strength in the storm of life. This resolve kept him awake many nights, as his worst nightmare was becoming a burden to the crew. Now, he finally found his answer. He was the Straw Hat Sniper, and he would do everything he could to be useful, a beacon of hope in the darkness. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the island. The air was filled with the sounds of the jungle, creating a serene atmosphere as the trio reflected on the giant's advice, a moment of clarity in the chaos of the world. The giant's wisdom resonated with the trio, each taking the advice to heart. Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, a band of brothers united in their quest. On the other side of the island, Sanji moved swiftly through the jungle, gathering supplies. Suddenly, the Baroque Works agents launched a surprise attack. Sanji dodged and countered with skill, but his hesitation to strike Miss Valentine and Miss Goldenweek gave them an advantage. Miss Goldenweek's cooler blue paint manipulated his emotions, leaving him vulnerable. "I can't let them win," Sanji thought, struggling to fight back as his vision blurred, a warrior caught in the web of his chivalry. The battle was intense, the air filled with the sounds of clashing and the rustling of leaves. Sanji, having learned basic haki, managed to hold his ground initially. He skillfully dodged attacks and countered with his own, his movements fluid and precise, a dance of death in the heart of the jungle. He took down Mr. Five with ease, his kicks swift and powerful, a testament to his skill and determination. However, his chivalrous nature made him hesitate to strike Miss Valentine and Miss Goldenweek, giving them an advantage, a weakness in his armor of honor. The jungle was alive with the sounds of battle, the rustling leaves and distant animal calls creating a chaotic backdrop, a symphony of conflict and chaos. Despite his inner struggle to fight back, his consciousness slipped away under the relentless assault, his vision blurring and his strength waning, a hero brought low by his own heart. Sanji fell unconscious, the agents stood over him, ready to execute their plan, a shadow over the light of hope. As the agents stood around Sanji's unconscious body, Mr. 3 spoke up, trying to sound impressive. "The plan can now start. This one was tough, and he isn't even the captain. But no matter how strong they are, they won't be ready for you." Mr. 2 nodded, then suddenly burst into an exaggerated ballet pose. "It's the Okama way," he declared, pirouetting on one foot. "We'll dazzle them with our fabulous moves and stunning beauty." Miss Valentine couldn't help but giggle. "Mr. 2, your tutu is showing." Mr. 2 looked down in horror, realizing he had accidentally transformed part of his outfit. "Oh my, how embarrassing," he exclaimed, quickly changing back. Mr. 5 rolled his eyes. "Can we focus on the mission?" Or should I expect a dance number next? Ooh, a dance number. What a splendid idea. Mr. 2 clapped his hands excitedly. Mr. 3 facepalmed. This is why I work alone, he muttered. Meanwhile, Robin had discovered a house made of wax deep in the jungle. As she peered inside, she saw a table with a tea set and a sign that read, Mr. 3's super secret evil lair, no pirates allowed. Well, that's subtle, Robin chuckled to herself, settling in to wait for more information. The jungle remained eerily silent, save for the distant sound of Mr. 2 humming a show tune, setting the stage for the next phase of the Baroque work's not-so-secret scheme. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the island, the Straw Hat crew found themselves scattered and facing unexpected challenges. Robin crouched in the shadows near Mr. 3's wax house, her keen eyes scanning for any movement. As she waited, she reflected on her position within the crew and her own goals. I need to be careful, she thought. If I'm discovered, it could jeopardize everything. Suddenly, she heard footsteps approaching. Robin quickly sprouted eyes and ears around the area, gathering information while remaining hidden. Mr. 3 and Miss Goldenweek entered the clearing, discussing their plans in hushed tones. The Straw Hats won't know what hit them, Mr. 3 chuckled. With your color trap and my wax abilities, we'll have them trapped in no time. And don't forget my fabulous disguises, Mr. 2 chimed in, striking a pose. They'll be so dazzled by my performances, they won't know which way is up. Robin's eyes widened. She didn't expect Mr. 2 to be here, but she couldn't risk blowing her cover. As the Baroque Works agents entered the wax house, Robin silently spied on them to see what their plan was. She worried about her new company, but this could work as a test to see how capable they all are. Back on the Going Merry, Nami, Vivi, and Karoo kept a vigilant watch, their nerves on edge as they waited for news from their crewmates. The ship creaked gently in the waves, a reminder of their vulnerability in this strange land. Nami and Vivi stood at the railing, gazing out at the starry sky. The gentle lapping of waves against the hull created a peaceful atmosphere. Nami, Vivi said softly, do you think we'll be able to save my country? Nami turned to her friend, a reassuring smile on her face. Of course we will. Have you seen how stubborn Luffy is? He won't give up until we succeed. Vivi chuckled, but her eyes remained worried. I just can't help but think about all the people suffering while we're here. Nami placed a comforting hand on Vivi's shoulder. I know it's hard, but remember, we're getting stronger every day. When we face Crocodile, we'll be ready. Vivi nodded, drawing words. You're right, thank you, Nami. As they stood there, a shooting star streaked across the sky. Both girls closed their eyes, making a silent wish for the safety of Alabasta and their friends. Sanji's been gone for a while now, Nami muttered, her brow furrowed with concern. I hope he hasn't run into any trouble. Vivi nodded, her eyes scanning the shoreline. And we still don't know where Robin went. This island, it feels like it's hiding secrets. Karoo quacked in agreement, ruffling his feathers nervously. Meanwhile, deep in the jungle, Dory and Brogy invited the trio to join them for dinner. They gathered around a massive bonfire, the flames casting dancing shadows across their faces. Luffy's eyes sparkled at the sight of the enormous chunks of meat roasting over the fire. Wow, that's a lot of meat. Gababababa, Dory laughed. Eat up, little ones, you need your strength. As they ate, Brogy regaled them with tales of their adventures on the Grand Line. Usopp listened intently, his imagination running wild with each story. And then, Brogy boomed, we faced a sea king as big as an island. Usopp's jaw dropped. Really? How did you defeat it? With one punch, Dory exclaimed, demonstrating with a swing of his massive fist. Zoro smirked, taking a swig from his mug. Impressive. I'd like to test my blades against something like that someday. Luffy, his mouth full of meat, mumbled excitedly, MMMPH, sounds like fun. As the night wore on, the group shared stories and laughter, forging a bond of friendship that transcended their differences in size and strength. Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp are camped with the giants, their snores echoing through the jungle. Sanji remains unconscious, held captive by the Baroque Works agents. Robin stealthily still tracks the agent to see what their plan are, her mind heavy with knowing Mr. 2 is here as it is different from what Luffy said. And this has two possibilities: one, Luffy lied, and second, Luffy knows the future and he changes to much already. On the Going Merry, Nami and Vivi retire to their quarters, while Karoo keeps watch. The island of Little Garden sleeps, but the air is thick with anticipation. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and adventures for the Straw Hat crew, as they continue their journey towards Alabasta and beyond. The sun starts rising, and Nami, Vivi, and Karoo start to worry about whether something is happening to Sanji. Sanji-kun is late. Nami frowned, tapping her foot impatiently. Quack! Karoo suddenly pointed his wing at an approaching figure. Ah! Sanji-san! Vivi called out, waving, but something was off. Sanji-kun, Nami called. Did you find any supplies? Thump thump, Sanji climbed aboard stiffly, missing his usual love tornado entrance. Nami Swan, Vivi Schwan, he said, but his voice sounded weird. Eh? Nami's eyes narrowed. Sanji-kun, how much do I charge you for borrowing money? 300% interest? Sanji guessed. Bunk, wrong, it's 800%. Nami's eyes turned to berry symbols. You're not Sanji-kun. Oh my, Sanji spun like a ballerina, transforming into Mr. 2. Such a smart navigator. An enemy, Vivi gasped. Karoo, the signal cannon, Nami commanded. Quack, Karoo saluted, diving for the cannon. Toi. Mr. 2 pirouetted through the air. Not so fast. Vivi, run. Nami assembled her staff. I'll handle this dancing freak. But Nami-san, go. My, Mr. 2 twirled. What a brave little girl. Nami's eyes narrowed dangerously. What did you do to Sanji-kun? Oh, he's just taking a little nap, courtesy of Miss Goldenweek's colors, Mr. 2 pirouetted. Now, be good girls and come with me. Mr. 3 has such wonderful plans for all of you. Karoo, Vivi commanded. The duck immediately understood. Mr. 2, my, what a shocking development, but it'll take more than a little staff to stop me. As Vivi and Karoo fled into the jungle, Nami faced down the Okama, her staff at the ready. Nami gripped her bow staff tightly, her eyes never leaving Mr. 2 as he danced around the deck. She knew she was outmatched in terms of physical strength, but she had other tricks up her sleeve. Oh, darling, do you think you can take me on? Mr. 2 taunted, his voice lilting with amusement. I faced far more formidable opponents than a little navigator with a stick. Nami smirked, her confidence unwavering. Don't underestimate a navigator of the future Pirate King's crew. She suddenly charged forward, swinging her staff at Mr. 2. The Okama easily dodged, laughing as he pirouetted away. Is that all you've got? But Nami wasn't aiming to hit him. Instead, she used the momentum to vault herself over the railing, landing on the shore. If you want me, come and get me. Mr. 2's eyes narrowed. Playing hard to get, are we? Fine by me. Okama Kenpo. Mr. 2 launched into a flurry of kicks. Whoosh, whoosh. Nami barely dodged, her hair whipping in the wind. Too close. Toi. Mr. 2 spun like a top. Dance with me, Navigator Chan. He leapt after her, his powerful legs carrying him far. Nami ran towards the jungle, her mind racing. She needed to buy time for Vivi and find a way to turn the tables. As they entered the dense foliage, Nami's knowledge of weather patterns came into play. She noticed the humidity, the direction of the wind, and the formation of clouds overhead. A plan began to form in her mind. You can't run forever, little girl, Mr. 2 called out, his voice echoing through the trees. Nami grinned to herself. Who said anything about running? She suddenly stopped and turned to face her pursuer, her bow staff held high. Let's dance, Okama. While Nami faced off against Mr. 2, Vivi and Karoo raced through the jungle, hoping to find and warn the others. Well, what do we have here? A smooth voice called out. From behind a large tree stepped Miss Valentine, her signature umbrella twirling in her hands. The little princess and her pet, all alone in the big, scary jungle. Vivi tensed, positioning herself protectively in front of Karoo. Miss Valentine, she acknowledged, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Quack! Karoo squawked nervously, his wings flapping in agitation. Miss Valentine giggled, a sound that was more menacing than cheerful. Now, there's no need to be afraid. Why don't you come along quietly? It'll be much easier for everyone. Vivi's eyes darted around, looking for an escape route. I'm afraid I'll have to decline your invitation, she said firmly. Kya ha ha ha. Crash. Miss Valentine dropped from above, her umbrella twirling. 10,000 kilo press. Karoo, left. Vivi commanded. Quack, Karoo swerved, dodging the crushing attack. My, the princess can dance too. Miss Valentine floated up again. The duck, understanding the unspoken plan, quickly scooped up Vivi and darted to the side, narrowly avoiding Miss Valentine's crushing attack. Run, Karoo, Vivi commanded, clinging tightly to her feathered friend as they weaved through the trees, Miss Valentine's laughter echoing behind them. Back at the shore, Nami continued her standoff with Mr. 2, each of them facing their challenges in this unexpected battle. As Nami faced Mr. 2 and Vivi fled from Miss Valentine, the jungle of Little Garden became a battlefield of wits and agility. Nami, her bow staff at the ready, circled Mr. 2 warily. The Okama's fluid movements made him an unpredictable opponent, but Nami had a plan forming in her mind. Come now, darling, Mr. 2 taunted, pirouetting closer. Surely you don't think you can defeat me with that little stick? Nami smirked, her eyes darting to the gathering clouds above. Who said anything about defeating you? I just need to keep you busy. She suddenly struck the ground with her staff, kicking up a cloud of dust. As Mr. 2 coughed and sputtered, Nami dashed towards a clearing she had spotted earlier. Oh no, you don't, Mr. 2 called, leaping after her with impressive agility. Meanwhile, Vivi and Karoo raced through the dense foliage, Miss Valentine hot on their heels. You can't run forever, Princess, Miss Valentine called, her laughter echoing through the trees. Vivi, clinging tightly to the Karoo, scanned their surroundings. We need to find the others, Karoo. Head towards where we last saw the giants. As they burst into a small clearing, they nearly collided with Nami, who was sprinting from the opposite direction. Vivi, Nami exclaimed, relief evident in her voice. Nami-san, Vivi replied, quickly dismounting from Karoo, we've got trouble. Before they could explain further, Mr. 2 and Miss Valentine emerged from the jungle, effectively cornering the Straw Hat crew members. Well, Miss Valentine giggled. Looks like we've caught ourselves some pirates. Mr. 2 struck a dramatic pose. It's time to end this little chase, darlings. Nami and Vivi stood back to back, Karoo positioned protectively in front of them. The air crackled with tension as they faced their opponents. Any ideas? Vivi whispered to Nami. Nami's eyes darted to the sky, where dark clouds were gathering. A small smile played on her lips. Just one. Be ready to move when I give the signal. As Mr. 2 and Miss Valentine closed in, Nami's mind raced. She had her wits and her knowledge of weather patterns. Vivi, Karoo, Nami whispered urgently, when I say, now, run to your left as fast as you can. Vivi nodded imperceptibly, her muscles tensing in preparation. Mr. 2 twirled closer, his voice sing-song and mocking. Time's up, darlings. Are you ready to surrender? Oh, we're ready all right, Nami replied, a confident smirk playing on her lips. She quickly pulled out a small device from her pocket, a makeshift weather ball she had Usopp working on. Now, as Vivi and Karoo darted left, Nami threw the device at the ground between Mr. 2 and Miss Valentine. Boom! Thunder rolled overhead as Nami dashed into the jungle. Weather egg, she threw one of Usopp's inventions. Poof! A localized rain cloud formed, drenching Mr. 2's makeup. Got you. Nami grinned. It exploded in a burst of smoke and sparks, momentarily blinding and confusing their pursuers. Run! Nami yelled, grabbing Vivi's hand as they sprinted into the dense jungle, Karoo hot on their heels. Behind them, they could hear Mr. 2's indignant shouts. My beautiful face, he wailed dramatically. With your silly tricks. As they aimed me with awe. That was clever, Nami-san. What was that? Nami grinned, still running. Just a little weather experiment Usopp been working on. But we're not out of danger yet. We need to find Luffy and the others. As Nami, Vivi, and Karoo attempted to flee, they suddenly found their escape route blocked. Mr. 3 emerged from the foliage, his wax already forming into menacing shapes. To their left, Mr. 5 appeared, casually flicking his nose as if preparing to launch an explosive attack. Miss Goldenweek calmly stepped out from behind a tree, her paintbrush at the ready. Now, Mr. 3 said with a smirk, did you think escaping would be that easy? Candle luck. Snap. Mr. 3's wax suddenly bound her legs. Nami-san. Vivi cried out as she and Karu were cornered by Miss Valentine. The chase ends here, Mr. 3 smirked, his wax powers creating an elaborate trap. Nami gritted her teeth, frantically looking for any opening. Vivi stood protectively in front of Karu, her eyes darting between their opponents. Color trap. Calming green, Miss Goldenweek murmured, her brush moving swiftly. Before they could react, a splash of green paint appeared at their feet. Almost instantly, Nami, Vivi, and Karu felt an overwhelming sense of tranquility wash over them. Their muscles relaxed, and the urgency of their situation seemed to fade away. That's better, Mr. 3 nodded approvingly. Now, let's join your friend, shall we? As the paint took effect, hidden in the shadows, Robin watched with growing interest. Show me, Straw Hat. She whispered. Show me why they call you the most unpredictable rookie in East Blue. In the heart of Little Garden, Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and the two giants, Dory and Brogy, were enjoying a lively gathering. The dense jungle surrounded them, creating a natural arena for their friendly sparring session. Luffy bounced around excitedly, his rubber limbs stretching as he dodged Dory's massive hand. She, giants are so cool, Luffy bounced around excitedly. Gababa, Dory laughed. You're an interesting little human. Brogy, watching from the sidelines with Usopp, chuckled. Gabababa, your captain is quite the energetic one. Long nose. Usopp, still in awe of the giants, nodded vigorously. Why yeah. Luffy's always like this, he loves a good fight. Zoro stood facing Brogy, his 3 swords at the ready. How about we have a little match of our own? He suggested with a smirk. Brogy grinned, hefting his massive axe. I like your spirit, green-haired warrior. Let's see what you can do, as Zoro and Brogy began their sparring match. Clang, clang. Zoro's swords clashed with Brogy's axe, creating sparks. Not bad, young warrior, Brogy grinned. I once fought 10 giants, Usopp boasted, his knees shaking. Luffy continued to bounce around Dory, both of them laughing and enjoying the friendly competition. Usopp watched in amazement, his eyes darting between the two battles. The air was filled with the sounds of clashing weapons, laughter, and excited shouts as the unlikely group bonded over their love of combat and adventure. As the Baroque Works agents led their captives back to Mr. 3's wax house, the atmosphere grew tense. Nami, Vivi, and Karu, still under the influence of Miss Goldenweek's calming green, walked docilely alongside their captors. Mr. 3 strode ahead, already formulating plans. With these 3 as bait, capturing the rest of the crew should be child's play, he mused aloud. Inside the wax house they found Sanji, still unconscious and bound. Mr. 2 twirled dramatically. Oh my, what a lovely collection we're amassing. Miss Valentine giggled. Now for the big prizes, those pesky giants and the rubber boy. Mr. 5 grunted, don't forget the swordsman, he could be troublesome. Mr. 3 nodded, his wax powers already at work creating an elaborate trap. Indeed. We'll need to separate them. Miss Goldenweek, prepare your colors. Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine, you'll lure the giants. Mr. 2, you're on Straw Hat duty. As the agents discussed their strategy, a flicker of awareness passed through Nami's eyes. Despite the calming paint, her mind was starting to clear. She knew they had to find a way to warn Luffy and the others before it was too late, as there seemed someone Luffy didn't know was here and with dangerous abilities. As Nami's mind began to clear, she realized the gravity of their situation. She glanced at Vivi and Karu, who still seemed to be under the influence of Miss Goldenweek's paint. Carefully, so as not to draw attention, Nami began to assess their surroundings and the Baroque Works agent's plan. Mr. 3 continued to construct his wax trap, his hands moving swiftly as he spoke. We'll need to be swift and coordinated. The element of surprise is crucial. Nami's eyes darted to Sanji, still unconscious. She knew that if she could somehow wake him, they'd have a fighting chance. But with the agents so close, any sudden move would be noticed immediately. As Mr. Two practiced his Nami impression, Nami's mind raced. She needed to find a way to communicate with Vivi without alerting their captors. Slowly, she inched her hand towards Vivi's, hoping to squeeze it and break her out of her trance. Mr. 2, Mr. 3 called out, "Remember, Straw Hat Luffy is more perceptive than he appears. You'll need to be convincing." "Oh, darling," Mr. 2 twirled, "I was born for this role." As the agents focused on their planning, Nami managed to grasp Vivi's hand. She squeezed it gently, hoping to convey a message through touch alone. "Come on, Vivi," Nami thought desperately. "We need to warn Luffy about Mr. 2's ability. It could be the key to their defeat." As Nami's attempt to communicate with Vivi failed, the Baroque Works agents finalized their plans and prepared to set out. Mr. 3 finished his elaborate wax trap, while Miss Goldenweek readied her paints. Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine discussed how to lure the giants, and Mr. 2 practiced his Nami impression one last time. The agents left the wax house, dragging their captives along, confident in their ability to capture or eliminate the remaining Straw Hat pirates and the giants. Meanwhile, hidden in the shadows of the dense jungle, Nico Robin observed the unfolding events with a mix of curiosity and disappointment. She had hoped the Straw Hat crew would prove more resilient, given their reputation and the bounty on their captain's head. How easily they fell, Robin mused to herself, her arms crossed as she leaned against a tree. Perhaps I overestimated them. Despite her doubts, a part of Robin still held out hope. She had seen something in Luffy that intrigued her, a determination and strength of will that was rare in the world. As she watched the Baroque Works agents move out, she couldn't help but wonder if Luffy would surprise her. "Show me, Straw Hat," Robin whispered, her eyes narrowing. "Show me if you're truly worth following. Prove that your power isn't just in your fists but in your ability to overcome impossible odds." With that thought, Robin melted further into the shadows, deciding to observe the coming confrontation. She knew that the outcome of this battle could very well determine her future path. As the Baroque Works agents set their plan in motion, the atmosphere in Little Garden grew tense. The dense jungle seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable clash between the Straw Hat pirates and their formidable foes. At the Giants' camp, Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp were still enjoying their time with Dory and Brogy, unaware of the danger approaching their friends. She, that was so much fun," Luffy exclaimed, stretching his arms after their sparring session. "You giants are really strong." Zoro, wiping sweat from his brow, nodded in agreement. "It's not every day we get to test our skills against legendary warriors." Usopp, still in awe, was regaling the giants with tales of his own great adventures, most of which were greatly exaggerated. Suddenly, a rustling in the nearby bushes caught their attention. Everyone tensed, ready for a potential threat. To their surprise, Nami, looking distressed. "Luffy, Zoro, Usopp," she called out, her voice filled with urgency. "We need your help. Vivi and Karoo have been captured by Baroque Works agents." Luffy immediately jumped to his feet, his playful demeanor replaced by determination. "How? Where are they?" As Nami explained the situation, Zoro's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Something about her movements and speech seemed off to him. Dory and Brogy exchanged glances, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "If your friends are in danger, we'll gladly lend our strength," Brogy offered. Usopp, already panicking, exclaimed, "Oh no, we have to help them." But before anyone could move, Zoro stepped forward. "If you're Nami, tell us something only she would know." Nami hesitated for a moment, caught off guard by the request. This hesitation was all Luffy needed to confirm his suspicions. "You're not Nami," Luffy shouted, his fist already pulled back. "Gomu Gomu no pistol." As Luffy's fist flew towards the imposter, Nami twirled, revealing Mr. 2's true form just in time to dodge the attack. "Oh my, how perceptive of you, Straw Hat Boy," Mr. 2 exclaimed, striking a dramatic pose. Luffy's eyes widened in surprise. "Bon-chan, what have you done with Nami and the others?" As the realization hit, Luffy's expression shifted from surprise to determination. "Bon-chan, where are Nami and the others?" he demanded, his voice firm. Mr. 2's eyes widened in genuine surprise. "Bon-chan? How do you know that name, Straw Hat Boy? We've never met before?" Luffy grinned, his confidence unwavering. I just know, and I know you're not a bad person, Bon-chan. But right now, I need to find my friends. Before Mr. 2 could respond, the rest of the Baroque Works agents emerged from the jungle, surrounding Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and the giants. Mr. 3, Miss Goldenweek, Mr. 5, and Miss Valentine stood ready, their expressions determined. Mr. 3 smirked, his wax powers already at the ready. We've got you surrounded, Straw Hat. Surrender now, and maybe we'll go easy on you. As the white cloud enveloped the area, Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and the giants found their movements becoming sluggish. The Baroque Works agents had planned their attack well, using the element of surprise and their unique abilities to gain the upper hand. Mr. 3's laughter echoed through the clearing as he watched the Straw Hat crew struggle. You're already caught in my candle lock, he taunted, his wax powers forming restraints around their limbs. The more you struggle, the tighter it becomes. Luffy gritted his teeth, trying to break free, but the wax held firm. Damn it, we need to get out of this. Zoro, his swords trapped by the wax, growled in frustration. This isn't good, we need a plan. Usopp, his eyes wide with fear, looked around desperately. What do we do? We're sitting ducks like this. The giants, Dory and Brogy, also found themselves ensnared by the wax, their massive strength rendered useless against the sticky substance. Miss Goldenweek calmly painted her colors on the ground, further manipulating the emotions of the trapped crew. Calming green, she murmured, her paintbrush moving with precision. As the calming effect washed over them, Luffy and the others felt their urgency and determination wane, replaced by a sense of resignation. Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine stood ready to attack, their expressions confident. Looks like this is the end for you, Straw Hat, Mr. 5 said, preparing to launch an explosive attack. Despite the dire situation, Luffy's spirit remained unbroken. He knew they couldn't give up, not when their friends were counting on them. Zoro, Usopp, we can't let them win, he shouted, trying to rally his crew. But the combination of the wax restraints and Miss Goldenweek's colors made it difficult to muster the strength to fight back. As Robin observed the scene, her initial disappointment in the Straw Hat crew's predicament began to shift. She noticed a change in the atmosphere, a palpable pressure that seemed to emanate from Luffy himself. It was as if the very air around him was charged with an intense energy. Ah! Luffy suddenly shouted, his straw hat shadowing his eyes. I'm done playing around. The air grew heavy, making the weaker Baroque Works agents wobble on their feet. What's happening? Mr. 3's legs shook like jelly. My wax, it's cracking. She. Luffy cracked his knuckles. Nobody messes with my nakama. Miss Goldenweek's eyes popped comically as her colors literally peeled off the ground. My colors aren't working. Gababababa. Dory's booming laugh shook the trees. This little one has the spirit of a true warrior. Gababababa. Brogy joined in. He reminds me of our younger days. Oi. Sanji lit a cigarette, grinning. Looks like our idiot captain is getting serious. About time, Zoro smirked, tying his bandana. I was getting bored. Sugi. Usopp shouted from behind a tree. Luffy's so cool, I think I'm coming down with can't fight strong enemies disease. Gomu no. Luffy pulled back both arms, steam rising from his body. Retreat. The Baroque Works agents tried to run, their legs moving like noodles. Bazooka. Wham! Bodies flew everywhere as Luffy's attack connected, stars spinning around their heads. From her hiding spot, Robin couldn't help but smile. Foo. What an interesting crew. Don't forget about me, Nami shouted, bonking the downed agents with her staff. You still owe me money for all this trouble. Nami Swan is so beautiful when she's violent, Sanji twirled with heart eyes. Shut up and fight. Everyone yelled at him. Impossible. Mr. 3 stumbled backward. My wax should be unbreakable. 3 sword style. Zoro growled, his bandana tied tight, sending Mr. 5 flying. Onigiri. Collier shoot. Sanji's leg blazed through the air, sending Mr. 5 flying. Usopp rubber band of doom. Usopp yelled though he was mostly hiding behind a tree. Gababababa. Brogy's laugh boomed across the battlefield. These little ones have spirit. Suddenly, arms sprouted from the ground like flowers. catching the Baroque Works agents off guard. Robin stepped out from behind a massive tree, a mysterious smile on her face. Miss All Sunday. Mr. Three's jaw dropped comically. What are you doing? Foo, Robin chuckled. I believe I'm helping my new crew. What? The Baroque Works agents' eyes bulged out of their heads in classic One Piece style. She. Luffy grinned wide enough to split his face. Robin's our nakama. She's super cool. Clutch. Multiple arms appeared on the remaining agents, bending them backward. Gah! They screamed as they fell. Victory party, Luffy shouted, already thinking about meat. You're too relaxed. Nami bonked him on the head, leaving a comical bump. Nami Swan is so beautiful when she's violent, Sanji twirled with hearty eyes. Shut up, Love Cook, Zoro grumbled. What did you say, Moss Head? As the crew fell into their usual antics, Robin watched with amusement. Vivi still looked suspicious, but couldn't help getting caught up in the crew's infectious energy. Gababa baba. The giant's laughter shook the trees. These pirates are interesting indeed. Once they were alone, Robin turned to face Luffy. Captain San, how did you know about Saul? She. Luffy grinned, picking his nose casually. I saw it. Robin's eyes narrowed slightly. Saw it? Yeah. Something weird happened and I saw lots of stuff that's gonna happen. Like how you become my nakama and about that ice guy and Saul, Luffy said excitedly, bouncing on his feet. And you believe these visions? Robin asked carefully. Of course. They're super cool. Like how we're gonna go to a sky island and meet a reindeer doctor and… Luffy stopped suddenly, realizing he was saying too much. Oops. She. That's supposed to be a surprise. Robin couldn't help but smile at his childlike enthusiasm. And that's why you want me on your crew? Nah. Luffy crossed his arms. I want you 'cause you're my nakama. Plus, you're gonna help us have lots of adventures. Even though I'm your enemy right now, you're not an enemy, you're Robin, and Robin is Robin. Luffy stated with absolute certainty, as if it was the simplest thing in the world. Robin felt that familiar warmth in her chest. The same feeling she had when Saul laughed. This boy, with his simple words and unwavering conviction, had somehow seen right through her. Very well, Captain San. I look forward to our adventures together. Yosh, let's go eat. I'm starving, Luffy shouted, already running back to the others. Robin chuckled, following her new captain. Perhaps this was what Saul meant about finding friends who would protect her. In the depths of Baroque Works headquarters in Alabasta, Crocodile sat in his dimly lit office, his patience wearing thin. The Den Mushi in front of him remained silent, despite multiple attempts to contact Mr. 2 and Mr. 3. TCH, Crocodile exhaled a cloud of cigar smoke, his hook gleaming menacingly. Those incompetent fools. Miss All Sunday's absence might connected. His eyes narrowed dangerously as he considered the implications. Mr. 1, he called out sharply. Daz Bones stepped from the shadows, his expression stoic. Sir. Take a team of millions and head to Little Garden. Find out what happened to those idiots, and eliminate any obstacles. Understood. Mr. 1's arms transformed into steel blades. What about the princess? Bring her alive. Kill the rest. Crocodile's face twisted into a cruel smile, especially that rubber brat. Meanwhile, back on Little Garden. Meat, Luffy shouted, his mouth full of dinosaur steak. Gababa, Dory laughed, watching the rubber boy devour portions meant for giants. At least chew your food. Nami scolded, though she couldn't hide her smile. Robin sat slightly apart from the group, observing their interactions with interest. Vivi still cast suspicious glances her way, but the atmosphere was surprisingly relaxed. Nami Swan. Robin Schwan. I made special drinks for you. Sanji twirled over with tropical beverages. Thank you, Cook-san. Robin smiled, accepting the drink. By the way, Nami turned to the giants. How long does it take for the log pose to set on this island? Gababa, Dory laughed. 1 year? 1 year? Nami's eyes bulged out comically. Her head slowly turned towards Luffy, a demonic aura surrounding her. Luffy. She growled, her fist clenching. You mean we're stuck here for a year because you wanted to see dinosaurs? She, Luffy grinned, picking his nose. Don't worry, Robin has an eternal pose to Alabasta. Nami stopped mid-punch, blinking in surprise. That's correct, Robin smiled mysteriously, pulling out the eternal pose. As a former employee of Crocodile, I happen to have this. You knew this the whole time? Nami bonked Luffy on the head, leaving a massive bump. Why didn't you say something sooner? Because it was fun here. She, Luffy rubbed his head, still grinning. You idiot! The crew yelled in unison. Foo, Robin chuckled at their antics. Shall we set sail then, Captain San? Yosh, Luffy jumped up excitedly. To Drum Island, but first, more meat. Will you be serious for once? Everyone shouted as Luffy continued stuffing his face with dinosaur meat. Vivi watched the exchange, still uncertain about trusting Robin but unable to deny the convenience of having the eternal pose. The crew's journey to save her kingdom could continue without delay. Wait, Drum Island? Nami questioned. Don't you mean Alabasta? We have the eternal pose right here? Nope. We're going to Drum Island first, Luffy declared between bites of meat. Why? Everyone shouted. As the crew continued their heated discussion about their next destination, a groan from nearby caught their attention. Mr. 3 was beginning to stir, his wax-covered body cracking as he moved. What happened? Mr. 3 mumbled, his eyes slowly focusing on the scene before him. Oh, the wax guy's awake, Luffy exclaimed, still chewing on a piece of meat. Vivi tensed, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon. Be careful, everyone, he's dangerous. Robin calmly sipped her drink, observing the situation with interest. I wouldn't worry too much, Princess. He's hardly in a position to cause trouble now. Mr. 3's eyes widened as he took in the sight of his former colleague sitting casually with the Straw Hats. Miss All Sunday. What's going on here? Before anyone could respond, another voice chimed in. Ooh, my head. 3-chan, is that you? Mr. 2 Bon Clay sat up groggily, his makeup smeared and his swan coat disheveled. Mr. 2? Mr. 3 exclaimed in surprise. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, Bon Clay retorted, then noticed the Straw Hats. Oh my, it's Straw-chan and friends. Luffy grinned widely. Bon-chan, you're awake too? Want some meat? Luffy, Nami shouted, exasperated. Stop offering food to our enemies. As the situation grew more chaotic, with Mr. 3 demanding explanations and Bon Clay happily accepting Luffy's offer of food, Zoro's voice cut through the commotion. What should we do with them, kill them or what? Just leave them here, Luffy said nonchalantly, still munching on his meat. Are you sure that's wise, Captain San? Robin asked, her fingers tapping her chin thoughtfully. They're our enemies, after all. Nami nodded in agreement. Robin's right, they could cause trouble for us later. She. It's fine, Luffy grinned. They're not bad guys, just on the wrong side. Vivi looked conflicted. But Luffy, they work for Crocodile. They've been trying to kill us. Bon-chan's my friend, Luffy declared as if that settled everything. And Wax Guy, well, he's kinda funny. Oi! Mr. 3 shouted indignantly. Robin chuckled softly. I must say, Captain San, your ability to see the good in people is quite remarkable. Besides, Luffy continued, his face suddenly serious, we don't have time to deal with them. We need to get to Drum Island quickly. You still haven't told us why, Usopp interjected. Luffy's grin returned. Because we need a doctor for our crew, and I know just the one. The crew exchanged glances, a mix of exasperation and curiosity on their faces. Luffy's grin faltered for a moment as he realized he hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't have an eternal pose for Drum Island. You idiot, Nami shouted, bonking him on the head again. How are we supposed to get there without a way to navigate? Robin chuckled softly. Perhaps I can be of assistance, Navigator San. Everyone turned to look at her curiously. As a former high-ranking member of Baroque Works, I have some knowledge that might be useful, Robin explained. Drum Island is known for its exceptional doctors, and it's not too far from our current location. We can use the log pose to navigate there. Nami's eyes lit up. Really? That's great, but wait, how do you know about Drum Island's doctors? Robin's smile turned mysterious. Let's just say I've done my research. It's always good to know where to find medical help in the Grand Line. Vivi still looked skeptical. Can we trust her information? Of course we can, Luffy declared, his faith in his new crew member unwavering. Robin's our nakama now. Well, I suppose it's our best option, Usopp said, scratching his head. But Luffy, who's this doctor you're talking about? Luffy's grin widened. You'll see when we get there, he's amazing. Yosh, Luffy shouted, jumping to his feet. Let's set sail for Drum Island. Well, I suppose we should get going then, Sanji said, lighting a cigarette. What about these agents? He gestured towards Mr. 3, Mr. 5, and Bon Clay. Like I said, leave him here, Luffy laughed. The giants can keep an eye on them. Right, Dory? Brogy? Gegyagyagyagyagya. The giants roared in laughter. Leave it to us, little humans. As the Straw Hats prepared to depart, Mr. 3 and Bon Clay watched in bewilderment, unsure of what their future held on this prehistoric island. As the Straw Hats prepared to set sail, a massive shadow suddenly loomed over the Going Merry. The crew looked up in shock to see an enormous goldfish, its scales glittering in the sunlight, its mouth wide open and ready to swallow their ship whole. What the hell is that? Usopp screamed, his eyes bulging out of his head. It's the Island Eater, Dory shouted from the shore. A monstrous goldfish that's devoured countless ships. Sugoi, Luffy exclaimed, stars in his eyes, it's huge. This is no time to be impressed, you idiot, Nami yelled, panic evident in her voice. As the goldfish descended upon them, Brogy's voice boomed across the water. Little humans, sail straight ahead. Are you crazy? Nami cried, we'll be eaten alive. But Luffy's grin only widened. You heard the giant, full speed ahead. Aye aye, Captain, Zoro replied, adjusting the sails. The Going Merry surged forward, directly into the gaping maw of the Island Eater. Just as it seemed they were about to be swallowed, a thunderous battle cry echoed across the sea. Hikoku, in perfect unison, Dory and Brogy swung their massive weapons. Their blades sliced through the air, creating a shockwave that split the sea itself. The attack struck the Island Eater with devastating force, cleaving straight through its enormous body. The Straw Hats watched in awe as the goldfish was cut clean in half, its massive body falling away on either side of their ship. They sailed through the gap, emerging unscathed on the other side. Gababababa! The giant's laughter shook the island. That's the pride of Elbaf for you. Amazing! Luffy shouted, his eyes shining with admiration. As they sailed away, the crew could still hear the giant's booming voices. Remember, little humans, carry the spirit of Elbaf with you. We'll never forget this, Luffy called back, waving enthusiastically. Thank you, Giant Awesome. With the Island Eater defeated and Little Garden fading into the distance, the Straw Hats set their course for Drum Island, their hearts filled with excitement for the adventures that lay ahead. In the depths of Baroque Works headquarters in Alabasta, Crocodile sat in his dimly lit office, his face contorted with rage as he listened to Mr. One's report. The room was thick with cigar smoke, matching the dark mood of its occupant. So, Crocodile growled, his hook gleaming menacingly in the low light, Miss All Sunday has betrayed us for a group of insignificant pirates. Mr. One stood stoically, his face impassive as he delivered the news. Yes, sir, according to our intelligence, she's now traveling with the Straw Hat crew. Crocodile's fist slammed onto his desk, causing the wood to splinter. That treacherous woman. I should have known she couldn't be trusted. He stood up abruptly, pacing the room with barely contained fury. And what of Mr. 3 and that buffoon, Mr. 2? Left behind on Little Garden, sir. The giants are keeping them under watch. Useless, all of them, Crocodile snarled. His mind raced, considering the implications of this betrayal. Miss All Sunday knew too much about their operations, about his true goals in Alabasta. Crocodile paced his office, his mind racing. He turned to Mr. One, who was still awaiting further instructions. We need to move faster. Double our efforts to incite rebellion among the people. Spread more rumors about the king hoarding water. I want chaos in the streets within days, not weeks. Mr. One nodded. Yes, sir. What about the Straw Hats? Crocodile's eyes narrowed. If Robin's with them, they're more dangerous than I initially thought. She wouldn't align herself with ordinary pirates. He walked to a large map of Alabasta on the wall, studying it intently. Find out everything you can about them. Their abilities, their goals. I want to know why they're here and what connection they have to Robin. And the princess? Mr. One inquired. Vivi? Crocodile smirked. She's still our unwitting pawn. But now, we'll use her to draw out the Straw Hats. Send word to our agents in Nanohana. I want them found the moment they set foot in Alabasta. He turned back to Mr. One, his face set in grim determination. Prepare our elite agents. We may need to deal with these pirates ourselves. And increase security around here. If Robin's led them here, she knows almost everything. As Mr. One left to carry out his orders, Crocodile looked out over the desert once more. What are you planning, Nico Robin? He muttered. And what makes these Straw Hats so special? On board the Going Merry, the Straw Hat crew found themselves puzzled by their captain's erratic behavior. Luffy's emotions seemed to be on a wild roller coaster, swinging between extreme happiness and profound sadness without any apparent reason. One moment, Luffy would be sprawled on the deck, clutching his sides as he roared with uncontrollable laughter. His infectious giggles would echo across the ship, causing some of the crew to smile despite their confusion. The crew worried, Nami stood up to go ask him what the problem was but was stopped by Robin who said, Navigator-san, I think it best that I talk with him. Nami raised her eyebrow, and why is that, Robin? Because I know why he knows what he knows. The crew's eyes widened in surprise at Robin's statement. Nami hesitated, then nodded, allowing Robin to approach Luffy. Robin approached Luffy, who was alternating between laughter and tears. The rest of the crew watched curiously from a distance. Captain San, Robin said softly, what's the problem? Why are you laughing one moment and crying the next? Luffy looked up at her, his eyes wide and grinning. Robin, it's so cool, the future's all mixed up now. Bon-chan wasn't supposed to be on Little Garden, but he was. Robin nodded, a small smile on her face. I see, the future you saw is changing. Yeah, Luffy exclaimed, bouncing with excitement. It's gonna be a whole new adventure. I don't know what's gonna happen next, it's so exciting. Robin chuckled. Foo, I suppose it would be for you, Luffy-san. She. Yeah. But. Luffy's grin faltered for a moment. I still want to save everyone. That's not gonna change. Robin placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Of course, Captain San. Perhaps sharing this with the crew might help? Luffy's eyes lit up. Oh yeah, they should know too. It'll be fun to see their faces. Oi, everyone, come here. I've got something super cool to tell you. As the crew gathered around, with looks of confusion and curiosity on their faces, Luffy was practically vibrating with excitement. He couldn't wait to share his secret and embark on this new, unpredictable adventure with his nakama. As the crew gathered around Luffy on the merry-go, their expressions ranged from curious to concerned. Nami spoke up first. Luffy, what's this all about? You've been acting strange since we left Little Garden. Yeah, Usopp chimed in, and what was that about Bon Clay? We've never even met him. Luffy took a deep breath, his grin stretching from ear to ear. Okay, guys, you're not gonna believe this, I've seen the future. There was a moment of stunned silence before the crew erupted. The crew huddled around Luffy, eyes bulging and jaws dropping. Usopp, his knees shaking, screeched, "EHHHHH. Luffy saw the future? That's impossible." She. It's true, Luffy grinned, digging for gold in his nose. Bonk. Nami's fist connected with Luffy's head, leaving a steaming bump. Don't be so casual about this, you idiot. OWWWW. Nami, that hurts, Luffy whined, rubbing his head. Zoro, one eye open, grunted, Oi, Captain. What exactly did you change? Luffy started counting on his fingers, tongue sticking out in concentration. Nami was supposed to join after Zoro. Oh, and she was gonna steal Mary at Barati, and Robin wasn't supposed to join until after we beat up that croc bastard. Nani? The crew exclaimed in unison, eyes popping out of their heads. Sanji, hearts in his eyes, twirled towards Nami and Robin. Nami Swan, Robin Schwan. I'm so glad you joined us earlier. Usopp, stars in his eyes, looked at Luffy in awe. Sugoi, Luffy, you're amazing. Wait a minute, Nami said, her eyes narrowing. Luffy, is that how you knew about Arlong? Luffy's face turned serious, a rare sight. Yeah. I saw what that fish face did to your village in Belmere. Luffy's eyes softened. I saw stuff. Like Zoro's promise with Kuina, Sanji's family in North Blue, and Robin's Island. Zoro's eye bulged comically. Oi, Luffy, you knew about Kuina? She. Yep, Luffy grinned, picking his nose. Zoro's face turned demonic. Don't pick your nose while talking about serious stuff. Nami's eyes turned to Belly's signs. Luffy, if you knew about Arlong, why didn't you tell me so he'd treasure we could have saved? Nami Swan. You're so cute when you're greedy. Sanji twirled with hearts in his eyes. Sanji suddenly stopped, his cigarette dropping from his mouth. Wait, you know about my family? Usopp jumped in, his nose growing longer. Luffy, tell me more about my brave future. Do I defeat 100,000 men single-handedly? Vivi's sweat dropped. Everyone, please calm down. Robin chuckled softly. Foo, it seems our captain is full of surprises. Luffy laughed loudly. She, you guys are funny. You're the funny one, the crew yelled in unison, shark teeth bared. Vivi, her voice shaky, asked, Luffy-san, what about Alabasta? Luffy's face split into his signature grin. Don't worry, we're gonna kick Crocodile's sandy ass. We're way stronger now. Yosha. The crew cheered, fists pumping in the air. But remember, Luffy added, picking his nose again, we're on a new adventure now. The future I saw is all messed up. Don't say that so happily, the crew yelled, shark teeth bared. As the Mary sailed on, laughter echoed across the waves. Whatever lay ahead, the Straw Hat Pirates were ready to face it head-on. In the depths of Rain Dinner's casino, Crocodile lounged in his chair, a thick dossier before him. His eyes narrowed as he flipped through the pages, cigar smoke swirling around his hook. Kuhahaha, he chuckled, tapping his hook against the desk. Interesting. Mr. One stood stoically nearby, his arms crossed. These Straw Hat Pirates, Crocodile mused. They're not just some rookie crew. He held up a wanted poster. Monkey D. Luffy, 55 million bounty. Defeated that fishman Arlong, that clown Buggy, and even took down a marine captain with a logia fruit. Not bad for an East Blue upstart. Crocodile's eyes glinted with malice. And now they've got Nico Robin. This smells fishier than the Alabasta Canal. He spread out more papers. A Santoryu-wielding ex-bounty hunter. A navigator who can predict the Grand Line's weather. A kick-happy cook from the Sea Restaurant. They're collecting quite the crew of misfits. Mr. One's expression remained unchanged. Should we crush them now, boss? Crocodile's grin widened, revealing his teeth. Patience, Mr. One. Let them come to our turf. We'll give them a proper Baroque Works welcome. He leaned back, blowing a smoke ring. That rubber brat might be tougher than he looks. But in this desert, I'm king. Kuhahaha. The crew's excitement was palpable as the Going Merry sailed towards Drum Island. Luffy's revelation about his knowledge of the future had left them all reeling but also filled with anticipation for what lay ahead. In the galley, Robin, Sanji, Nami, Vivi, and Usopp huddled around the table, their faces serious. Zoro was napping in the corner, his snores punctuating the tense atmosphere. We need to be prepared, Nami said, her brow furrowed. If Luffy almost died twice fighting Crocodile in the future he saw, we can't take any chances. Robin nodded, her fingers laced together. Indeed. Crocodile is not an opponent to be underestimated. His devil fruit ability makes him particularly dangerous in a desert environment. Sanji took a drag from his cigarette. At least we have an advantage now. Luffy taught us about hockey, which means we can actually hit that sand bastard. True, Nami agreed. Though it's still amazing how Luffy can use all three types so well. That Conqueror's hockey is something else. Foo, Robin chuckled. And both Cook-san and Swordsman-san have shown an aptitude for armament and observation hockey, even if it's just the basics. Sanji's visible eye gleamed with pride. Thanks to Luffy's training, I can at least coat my legs with armament now. Not for long, but it should be enough to land some solid hits on Crocodile. A loud snore from Zoro made them all turn. The swordsman shifted slightly, his hand unconsciously gripping his white katana. That mosshead may be sleeping, but he's been practicing too, Sanji admitted grudgingly. Yesterday I saw him cutting leaves blindfolded, training his observation haki. Usopp gulped nervously. I still can't believe how strong you guys are getting. Meanwhile, I can barely sense anything with observation haki. Don't worry, Long-Nose-kun, Robin smiled. Everyone develops at their own pace. Besides, your sniping skills combined with observation haki could be quite formidable once mastered. Still, Vivi interjected, bringing them back to the matter at hand. We need more information about Crocodile's operations. Robin-san, what else can you tell us? Robin leaned forward, her expression grave. I've known some troubling information about Crocodile's plans. He intended to use Mr. Two's ability to create further discord between the royal army and the rebels. Moreover, he has infiltrated both sides, using his agents to fan the flames of conflict. The crew listened intently as Robin continued. The most alarming part is his contingency plan. If all else fails, he's prepared to detonate explosives in the clock towers of both Alubarna and Nanohana. However, I don't know who he's assigned to this task, as he hadn't made that decision when I left. That's not all, she added grimly. He still has formidable agents at his disposal. Mr. One and his Miss Doublefinger, Mr. Fore and his Miss Merry Christmas, as well as numerous other Baroque Works operatives. Sanji frowned, and now that you've betrayed him, he'll likely accelerate his plans. Robin nodded, precisely. Without Mr. Two's ability, his plan becomes more challenging, but he's resourceful and dangerous. Nami stood up, determination in her eyes. Then we need to act fast. We should find this Dr. Luffy mentioned and leave for Alabasta immediately. Agreed, Vivi said, her voice filled with worry for her country. Every moment counts now. Nami turned to Robin. Robin, how much does Luffy actually know about the future? And why didn't that idiot tell us earlier? Robin chuckled. From what he told me, he just woke up one day before sailing with memories. As for why he didn't tell anyone, she shrugged. He said it was more fun this way. Fun, everyone shouted. Yep, Robin confirmed. He just does whatever he wants with this knowledge. If he thinks something will be fun to change, he changes it. If he thinks someone needs help, he helps. That's all there is to it. That's so Luffy, Usopp groaned, face palming. No deep thinking, no careful planning, Nami sighed. Just Luffy being Luffy. Sanji lit another cigarette. Well, what did we expect? Even with future knowledge, he's still our simple-minded captain. They all nodded, knowing this was exactly how Luffy would handle having future knowledge, in the most straightforward, Luffy-like way possible. Nami, frustrated with the lack of clear answers, decided to go straight to the source. She marched over to where Luffy was napping next to Karoo and shook him awake. She then kicked Zoro awake for good measure. Luffy, wake up, you idiot, we need answers, Nami demanded. Luffy yawned and rubbed his eyes. Huh? What's up, Nami? How exactly did you get these memories? Luffy scratched his head, thinking. Oh, that. It didn't seem that important. But okay. He sat up, cross-legged. About 2 days before I set sail, my head started hurting really bad while training. Then I saw all this stuff from the future, and there was this weird voice in my ear saying stuff like, join him, together, and something about changing the world. Ghost. Usopp screamed, hiding behind Sanji. Nami's face paled. The voice? What kind of voice? Zoro, Sanji, and Robin looked at Luffy seriously, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. Luffy continued, yeah, I refused. But that voice got really pushy, started showing me all these sad memories. His usual grin faltered slightly. Stuff about Ace, Sabo, and bad things happening to you guys. The crew tensed at seeing their captain's rare serious expression. But Luffy's smile returned, stronger than ever. I remembered all the good times with my brothers, and how much I trust in my crew. So I just got really angry and screamed at the voice to get out. He punched the air for emphasis. That sounds like Conqueror's haki, Robin observed thoughtfully. Your willpower was strong enough to reject whatever was trying to influence you. Vivi, who had been quietly listening, moved closer to Luffy with concern in her eyes. Luffy-san, are you okay? That must have been really difficult to experience. She, I'm fine, Luffy grinned, patting his stomach. Actually, I'm hungry, Sanji, meat. Suddenly, Luffy perked up, hitting his fist against his palm. Oh yeah, I forgot something really important to tell you guys. The crew leaned in, curious about what their captain had remembered. Luffy's face started turning red, smoke literally coming from his ears as he concentrated hard. Oh yes. He jumped up excitedly. Remember when I told you about hockey and how you need it in the Grand Line? Everyone nodded, while Sanji poked his head out of the kitchen to listen. Well, Luffy continued, his words tumbling out in typical Luffy fashion, hockey is super important. Like, really, really important. If you want to stand on top of the world, or become the Pirate King. That's me, Shishishi. Or the greatest swordsman in the world. That's Zoro. You need hockey. Get to the point, Luffy, Nami sighed, though she was clearly interested. The point is. Luffy crossed his arms, trying to look serious but failing miserably. Hockey is the most important thing. It's like a superpower that makes you super strong. Without it, we can't reach our dreams. So what you're saying, Robin interpreted with an amused smile, is that we should all learn hockey. Yes. Luffy beamed, glad someone understood. That's exactly what I'm saying, we all need to get stronger with hockey. Nami suddenly stood up, her fist clenched. With a swift motion, she bonked Luffy on the head, leaving a comical bump. Zoro watched from the side, a knowing smirk on his face. Captain's right. We've been taking it easy with hockey training lately. Speak for yourself, Moss Head, Sanji retorted, demonstrating by coating his leg in black armament. Ow, Nami, what was that for? Luffy whined, rubbing his head. You idiot, Nami yelled, her eyes blazing. Why didn't you tell us how important hockey was earlier? I've been slacking off on training it. Luffy just grinned sheepishly, Shishishi, sorry Nami. Vivi, who had been listening intently, spoke up with a concerned look on her face. Luffy-san, is it really okay to share all this information with me? I mean, I'm just a princess who'll be leaving after we save Alabasta. Luffy turned to Vivi, his expression suddenly serious. Of course, it's okay. Vivi, you're our nakama. The crew watched as Luffy's face broke into his signature wide grin. And who said anything about you leaving? You don't have to go back if you don't want to. You can keep sailing with us. Vivi's eyes widened in surprise. But, my kingdom. Your dad can handle it, right? Luffy said confidently. Besides, you'll be a stronger leader if you see more of the world. So stay with us, Vivi. Be a pirate and a princess. The rest of the crew smiled, nodding in agreement. Vivi felt tears welling up in her eyes, touched by Luffy's words and the crew's acceptance. I'll think about it, she said softly, a small smile forming on her lips. Yosh, Luffy cheered. Now, let's eat and then start hockey training. Breakfast is ready. Sanji called from the kitchen, right on cue. Food. Luffy shouted, his previous serious demeanor instantly replaced by his usual enthusiasm for eating. As the crew dispersed from breakfast, dark clouds began gathering on the horizon. The Going Merry's sails caught the increasingly cold wind, a reminder that they were approaching the winter island Luffy had mentioned. Alright, Usopp declared, trying to sound brave. We need to prepare for Drum Island and then head straight to Alabasta. The crew nodded in agreement, their resolve strengthened by the gravity of the situation. They knew they were racing against time to save a kingdom and defeat one of the most dangerous men in the Grand Line. Karoo burst into the room, quacking frantically and pointing his wing toward the door. What's wrong, Karoo? Vivi asked, concerned. The crew rushed outside, following the panicked duck. As they reached the deck, they saw a mysterious figure standing on the water's surface, his silhouette barely visible in the misty morning light. Usopp's eyes bulged, and he started screaming, GG ghost, it's a ghost walking on water. Karoo joined in, quacking loudly in fear. The commotion quickly attracted Zoro and Luffy, who stumbled out onto the deck. What's all the noise about? Zoro grumbled. Luffy, however, snapped to attention as soon as he saw the figure on the water. Without hesitation, he stretched his arm back and shouted, Gum Gum Pistol. His fist shot forward, aiming straight for the mysterious man. The crew watched in stunned silence, their jaws dropping as Luffy's attack seemed to pass right through the figure. Luffy, Nami exclaimed, shocked. What are you doing? The rest of the crew stood dumbfounded, their eyes darting between Luffy and the mysterious figure. They couldn't understand why Luffy had attacked so suddenly or how he had known to do so. "Oi, Luffy," Zoro said, his hand on his swords. "You know something we don't?" Luffy's face contorted with anger as he glared at the mysterious figure. "He's a bad person. They make Chopper cry," he shouted, his fists clenched tightly. The crew exchanged glances, understanding who Chopper was and why Luffy was so upset. Suddenly, as if responding to Luffy's words, the sea began to tremble. The Going Merry rocked violently, nearly throwing the crew off their feet. Nami clung to the railing, her eyes wide with fear. "What's happening?" Usopp screamed, holding onto Zoro for dear life. The water around the ship started to churn and bubble as if something massive was rising from the depths. Luffy's eyes narrowed, a hazy memory flickering in his mind. "Guys," he said, his voice uncharacteristically serious, "something big is coming." As the words left his mouth, a colossal shape began to emerge from the sea. Water cascaded off its metallic surface, revealing a sleek, submarine-like vessel that dwarfed the Going Merry. Luffy's eyes widened in recognition, a mixture of excitement and dread washing over him. "I remember this," he muttered, more to himself than to his crew. "Before we met Chopper, something like this appeared." The crew stood in awe and terror as the massive vessel continued to rise, its true size becoming apparent. It was easily 10 times the size of their ship, with strange markings and devices covering its hull. "What is that thing?" Sanji asked, his cigarette falling from his open mouth. Robin's eyes narrowed as she studied the vessel. "It appears to be some kind of advanced submarine," she said, her voice tense. "But I've never seen anything like it before." The crew watched in amazement as the submarine transformed, its metallic hull shifting and reshaping until it resembled a massive ship with a hippo figurehead. The transformation was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Suddenly, an obnoxious laugh echoed across the water. "Wah!" A rotund figure appeared on the deck of the hippo ship, wearing what looked like a hippo fur coat. His face was twisted in an arrogant sneer as he glared at the Straw Hat crew. "How dare you hit one of my men?" the figure bellowed, his voice grating on their ears. Luffy's eyes widened in recognition, memories flooding back. This was Wapol, the cruel former king of Drum Kingdom who had tried to destroy the pirate flag that meant so much to Chopper. Rage boiled up inside him. "I'll kick your ass," Luffy roared, his fists clenched at his sides. Without warning, Luffy unleashed a wave of Conqueror's Haki. The invisible force swept across the water, slamming into Wapol's ship. In an instant, every one of Wapol's men collapsed, their eyes rolling back as they lost consciousness. The Straw Hat crew stood in stunned silence, awed by the display of their captain's power. They had seen glimpses of his Haki before, but nothing like this. Wapol, now alone on his ship, trembled in fear. His eyes darted frantically between his fallen men and the enraged rubberman glaring at him from the Mary's deck. What did you do?" Wapol stammered, his earlier bravado evaporating. "What kind of monster are you?" Luffy cracked his knuckles, his eyes shadowed by the brim of his straw hat. "I'm the man who's going to be king of the pirates," he growled. "And I won't let you hurt my friends or destroy what they care about." The rest of the crew, recovering from their shock, readied themselves for battle. They might not understand everything happening, but they trusted their captain implicitly. As tension filled the air, the two ships faced off, with Luffy prepared to defend his future friend's honor and Wapol realizing he might have picked a fight with the wrong pirate crew. Luffy's eyes narrowed as he focused on Wapol. Without hesitation, he stretched both arms far behind him, twisting them together. "Gum gum! Bazooka!" he shouted, launching his arms forward with incredible force. His hands slammed into Wapol's rotund belly, sending the tyrant flying off into the horizon with a fading wah. As Wapol disappeared from sight, the crew continued their sailing, leaving the huge ship behind. Nami after a minute turned to Luffy, their faces a mix of awe and confusion. "Luffy," Nami started, her voice hesitant, "what was that all about? It's not like you to attack someone so decisively." Luffy's serious expression melted away, replaced by his trademark grin. "Shi. That guy was a real jerk in the future I saw. He tried to destroy something really important to a friend we haven't met yet." "A friend we haven't met?" Usopp repeated, scratching his head. "Yeah." Luffy nodded enthusiastically. the awesome doctor on the island we're going to. Wapol used to be the king there, but he was terrible. He tried to destroy the only thing our chopper had left of someone important to him. The crew listened intently as Luffy recounted the story. So that's why I had to kick his ass now, Luffy concluded, punching the air. No one messes with my friends, even if we haven't met them yet. As understanding dawned on their faces, snowflakes began to them. The crew looked up in wonder as the mist parted, revealing a winter island looming before them. Wow, it's Drum Island, Luffy exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Let's go find our new friend and the super doctor. Wait, Luffy, Nami called out, but it was too late. Their captain had already stretched his arm to grab the figurehead, ready to launch himself onto the island. Adventure! Luffy shouted joyfully as he catapulted himself towards the snowy shores, leaving his crew sighing in exasperation and fondness. That's our captain, Zoro smirked, preparing to drop anchor. Always rushing ahead, Sanji added, lighting a cigarette. As the Going Merry approached Drum Island, the crew couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and curiosity about the new friend Luffy had mentioned and the adventures that awaited them on this winter wonderland. Crash! Luffy landed face first in the snowy forest, creating a Luffy-shaped hole in the deep snow. Shi. That was fun, he laughed, pulling himself out and shaking off the snow like a dog. Meanwhile, at the canal entrance to Drum Island, the Going Merry slowly made its way through the icy waters. Before they could properly dock, dozens of armed islanders emerged from behind snowbanks and trees, their rifles trained on the ship. Don't move, state your business, one of the villagers demanded. Great, just great, Nami muttered through gritted teeth. Luffy, you idiot. You could have at least warned us about the armed welcome committee. Usopp's knees were knocking together as he hid behind the mast. We're going to die because our captain couldn't wait 5 minutes to tell us what to expect. That rubber-brained moron, Sanji growled, cigarette clenched between his teeth. All he mentioned was some awesome doctor, and then launched himself who knows where. Zoro gripped his swords, ready for anything. Typical, he probably got lost in that forest already. Robin maintained her calm demeanor, though her eyes showed slight amusement. It seems our captain's enthusiasm has once again put us in an interesting situation. Hands where we can see them, another villager shouted. As the crew raised their hands, they collectively thought the same thing. Luffy, when we find you, you're going to get it. In the forest, Luffy sneezed. Huh, someone must be talking about me. Now, where's that mountain with the castle? I want to see Chopper. He started marching through the snow, heading in completely the wrong direction, humming happily and completely oblivious to his crew's predicament. While Dalton led the Straw Hats into the village, explaining the situation and asking detailed questions about their encounter with Wapol, Luffy was having his own adventure in the snowy forest. Brr, it's cold. Luffy finally noticed, hugging himself and shivering. Maybe I should have grabbed a jacket. Oh well, she. Despite the biting cold, he continued trudging through the deep snow, his sandals completely inappropriate for the weather. As he walked, he suddenly heard rustling in the nearby trees. Huh? Luffy turned just in time to see several large, rabbit-like creatures emerging from the forest. The Lapons bared their sharp teeth, their muscular forms towering over him. Wow! Giant bunnies! Luffy exclaimed excitedly, completely missing their aggressive stance. But I can't play now, I gotta find Chopper. The Lapons lunged at him, but Luffy easily dodged, bouncing through the snow. Sorry, bunnies, maybe later. As he continued his journey, he encountered a herd of massive reindeer. Unlike the friendly Chopper, he remembered, these reindeer snorted threateningly and pawed at the ground. Nope, none of these look like Chopper, Luffy mused, casually walking past the intimidating creatures. He's way cuter. Finally reaching a clearing, Luffy looked up at the 3 mountains before him. Now, which one had the castle? He wondered, putting his hand above his eyes to shield them from the snow. That one looks good. He pointed to the middle-sized mountain on the right. Yeah, that must be it, time to climb. Before starting his ascent, Luffy closed his eyes and concentrated for a moment. His arms suddenly turned a shiny black color as he coated them in armament haki. This should help with the cold, Luffy grinned, flexing his now hardened arms. Alright, let's go. What Luffy didn't realize was that he had chosen the wrong mountain. The castle was actually atop the tallest one, Drum Rock. But being Luffy, he started his ascent anyway, his hockey-coated rubber arms stretching to grab onto rocky outcrops. "Don't worry, Chopper," he called out to no one in particular, his voice echoing across the snowy landscape. "I'm coming to meet you again for the first time, shi." Meanwhile, back in the village, the Straw Hat crew gathered around Dalton in one of the houses. "So, about this doctor," Nami started, remembering Luffy's excitement about someone named Chopper. Dalton's expression grew serious. "Well, we only have one doctor on this island. The people here call her Dr. Kureha, though many refer to her as the witch." "A witch?" Usopp gulped nervously. "Yes," Dalton continued. "She's a skilled doctor, but she's quite eccentric. She's 140 years old and lives in the castle at the top of Drum Rock, the tallest mountain you can see from here." Sanji lit a cigarette, looking thoughtful. "That's the opposite direction from where Luffy went, isn't it?" "Indeed," Dalton confirmed. "Dr. Kureha comes down to the villages when she chooses, treating patients as she sees fit. She then takes whatever she wants as payment: money, food, sake, anything that catches her fancy." "But what about this reindeer doctor Luffy mentioned?" Nami asked, trying to make sense of their captain's earlier excitement. Dalton's eyes widened slightly. "Reindeer doctor? Well, there have been strange rumors about Dr. Kureha having an unusual assistant, but I've never seen them myself. Some villagers claim they spotted a small creature working with her, but most dismiss it as mountain folklore." "That must be who Luffy was talking about," Usopp exclaimed, pounding his fist into his palm. Sanji interjected, "We should probably go after our idiot captain before he freezes to death. He went up the wrong mountain after all." Just then, they heard a commotion outside. Villagers were shouting about something approaching from the sea. As Dalton rushed outside, followed by the rest of the Straw Hats, he began questioning the villagers about the commotion. "What's going on? What's all this noise about?" Dalton demanded. A villager, catching his breath, pointed towards the sea. "Dalton-san, it's Waipal's ship. The massive vessel is approaching, but it seems different." Dalton's eyes widened in shock. "What, are you certain?" "Yes, sir," another villager chimed in. "We saw it clearly. That giant hippo-shaped ship is unmistakable." The Straw Hats exchanged glances, remembering their earlier encounter with Wapol. "But that's impossible," Sanji said, taking a drag from his cigarette. "Our captain sent that fat bastard flying just a few hours ago." Zoro nodded, his hand resting on his swords. "Yeah, there's no way he could have recovered and returned so quickly." "I see," Dalton muttered, his brow furrowed in thought. "But if it's not Wapol himself, then who?" Suddenly, a loud, familiar laugh echoed across the village. "Wha?" The villagers gasped in terror as they saw a figure emerge from the approaching ship. It was indeed Wapol, looking battered but very much alive. "How is this possible?" Usopp shrieked, hiding behind Zoro. Robin spoke up, her voice calm despite the tense situation. "He might have good medication or a devil fruit ability that allowed him to recover quickly." Dalton nodded grimly, turning to the Straw Hats. "Robin-san is correct. Wapol possesses the Baku Baku no Mi, or Munch Munch fruit. It allows him to eat anything and assimilate it into his body. He can even merge with weapons or machines he consumes." As the ship drew closer, they could see that it had indeed changed. Waipol's face was now emblazoned on the sail, grinning maniacally at them. "Surrender, you pathetic islanders," Waipol's voice boomed across the water. "And as for you, Straw Hat bastards, come and meet your doom." The ship's deck suddenly transformed, revealing an array of cannons and other weaponry. It seemed Wapol had consumed parts of his own vessel, incorporating its firepower into his body. "Behold the might of my Baku Baku factory," Wapol cackled, his body now a grotesque fusion of flesh and metal. "You'll regret ever crossing paths with me." The villagers cowered in fear, but the Straw Hats stood their ground, readying themselves for battle. Sanji took a long drag from his cigarette before flicking it away. "Looks like our captain's unfinished business just caught up with us." Zoro unsheathed his swords, a predatory grin on his face. "Good, I was starting to get bored anyway." As Waipol's transformed ship approached the shore, Some of the braver villagers began firing their rifles at him. The bullets merely bounced off his metallic body, serving only to further enrage the tyrant. "You dare defy me, your rightful king?" Weipal's face contorted with fury. "If you won't surrender, then you'll all die." His body, now merged with the ship's weaponry, began to whir and click ominously. Multiple cannon barrels protruded from his form, and with a mechanical grinding sound, they started rotating at high speed. "Baku Baku Factory. Rapid fire cannon." Wapol roared. A barrage of cannonballs erupted from his body, raining down on the village at an alarming rate. The projectiles whistled through the air, threatening to destroy everything in their path. "Everyone, take cover," Dalton shouted to the villagers. Robin quickly crossed her arms. See and fleur. Wall. A barrier of arms sprouted from the ground, catching several cannonballs. Zoro stepped forward, his swords glinting. Three-sword style. Dragon twister. He deflected another volley of projectiles, sending them harmlessly into the sea. Sanji leapt into the air, his leg blazing. "We need to get closer to that ship." The situation became dire as Weipal's assault intensified, and the Straw Hats knew they had to act fast to protect the village and its people. As the barrage of cannonballs rained down, Nami's eyes widened in horror. "This is insane. We need to evacuate the villagers." Usopp, his knees shaking, tried to put on a brave face. Don't worry, the great Captain Usopp will protect everyone." Despite his words, he was clearly terrified. Vivi, her face set with determination, turned to Karoo. "We need to help get the injured to safety. Can you carry some of them, Karoo?" The loyal duck nodded vigorously, quacking in agreement. Nami quickly took charge of the situation. "Usopp, use your smoke stars to create a cover for the villagers. Vivi and Karoo, help the elderly and children get to higher ground." Usopp fumbled with his slingshot, his hands trembling. "All right, special attack." Smoke star, he fired several projectiles that exploded into thick smoke, providing some cover from Weipal's assault. Vivi and Karoo sprang into action, guiding frightened villagers away from the danger zone. The princess's voice rang out clear and reassuring. "This way, everyone, stay calm and follow us." As they worked to protect the civilians, the other Straw Hats continued their efforts to fend off Weipal's relentless attack, the fate of Drum Island hanging in the balance. As Dalton watched the villagers narrowly escape death from Weipal's assault, his anger surged. With a roar of fury, he transformed into his powerful bison form, charging towards Weipal's ship with the intent to attack. However, before he could reach his target, Chess and Kuromarimo intercepted him. Chess fired a volley of arrows, while Kuromarimo launched his static charged hairballs, forcing Dalton to halt his charge and defend himself. "You won't get near King Wapol," Chess sneered, knocking another arrow. "We'll protect our king with our lives," Kuromarimo added, readying more of his unusual projectiles. Meanwhile, Robin, Zoro, and Sanji found themselves overwhelmed by Weipal's relentless barrage. They were forced to focus on defending themselves and the villagers, unable to mount a counterattack. Robin's arms sprouted across the battlefield, deflecting cannonballs and shielding civilians. "There's too many," she called out, strain evident in her voice. Zoro slashed through the air, his swords a blur as he cut down projectile after projectile. "TCH, this bastard doesn't let up." Sanji's legs were a flaming whirlwind as he kicked away incoming attacks. "We need to find a way to get closer." The situation was growing increasingly dire as Weipal's assault continued unabated, and the Straw Hats struggled to find an opening to turn the tide of battle. Through the chaos of cannon fire and smoke, a swift shadow darted between the explosions with incredible speed. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out clear and determined. "Hoofprint." Roseo, the attack connected with devastating force as Chopper, in his walkpoint form, delivered a powerful kick straight into Weipal's face, sending the Tyrant King staggering backward on his own ship. As the shadow emerged from the chaos, revealing itself to be Chopper, most of the onlookers were confused by the sudden appearance of this strange creature. Only Dalton recognized him, his eyes widening in surprise and recognition. It's you," Dalton exclaimed, momentarily distracted from his fight with Chess and Kuromarimo. The Straw Hat crew, Vivi, and the villagers looked on in bewilderment as the reindeer confronted Wapol. "What is that thing?" Zoro muttered, his sword still raised. A reindeer? But it looks different, Robin observed, her arms crossed. Sanji's visible eye narrowed. Whatever it is, it seems to be on our side. Wapol, recovering from the surprise attack, glared at Chopper. You. I remember you now. You're that freak who used to follow that quack doctor around. Chopper stood his ground, his resolve unwavering. Dr. Hylaluk was not a quack. He was a great man who taught me the true meaning of being a doctor and protecting this island. I won't let you destroy what he worked so hard to save. Dalton, still engaged with chess and Kuromarimo, felt a surge of hope. He knew the significance of Chopper's appearance and the strength the young reindeer was far from over. But now they had an unexpected ally in their fight against Wapol's tyranny. Seeing himself cornered, Wapol's face contorted into a desperate sneer as he played his last card. Fools! I am a king appointed by the world government. Going against me means declaring war on the world government itself. Wapol shouted, his voice trembling with both fear and anger. Some villagers flinched at the mention of the world government, their faces showing fear. However, their expressions quickly hardened as memories flooded back. Memories of loved ones dying without medical care, of Blackbeard's attack, and of their king fleeing when they needed him most. Chopper's mind flashed to his time with Dr. Hylaluk, their experiments, their laughter, their dreams. And then that fatal day when Wapol's cruel deception led to his father figure's death, his hooves clenched tightly. The Straw Hat crew remained unfazed, having faced similar threats before. Just then, Dalton emerged victorious over Chess and Kuromarimo, their defeated bodies lying on the deck. Seeing his last defenders fall, Wapol's eyes went wild with panic. In a desperate move, he activated all his weapons at once, including a mysterious device he'd stolen from the weapons researcher before abandoning the kingdom. If I can't have this kingdom, no one will, he screamed, as the device began to glow ominously. Zoro and Sanji moved instantly, their instincts telling them they couldn't let that device activate. A king who'd destroy his own kingdom. Sanji's voice dripped with disgust as he launched himself forward. Collier strike. His leg blazed through the air, aimed at Wapol's neck. Simultaneously, Zoro dashed forward, his swords gleaming. Two-sword style. Rising Phoenix. He unleashed a powerful cross-slash attack. Their combined attacks struck Wapol before he could fully activate the device, sending him flying upward. However, as the smoke cleared, a strange mechanical whirring sound filled the air. What they thought was a weapon of destruction turned out to be something else entirely. The device in Wapol's hands suddenly lit up with an intense blue glow, and using the momentum from Zoro and Sanji's attacks, it activated, revealing itself to be some sort of propulsion system. The force of their attacks combined with the device's power sent Wapol rocketing away from the island at incredible speed. Damn it, Zoro growled, watching as Wapol became a distant speck in the sky. That coward had an escape plan all along. He's running away again, Chopper said quietly, watching his former king disappear into the distance, just like he had done when the island needed him most. As Wapol was propelled into the sky, his voice could be heard fading into the distance. You haven't seen the last of me, you peasants, I'll be back, and when I do, I'll have the full might of the world government behind me. This kingdom will be mine again. His maniacal laughter echoed across the snowy landscape, growing fainter as he disappeared into the horizon. The threat hung in the air, a chilling reminder that their troubles might not be over yet. Sanji scoffed, lighting a cigarette. Big words from a man running away with his tail between his legs. Zoro's grip on his swords tightened. Let him come, we'll be ready. The villagers who were starting to gather around. Despite Wapol's ominous words, there was hope and determination in the air. For the first time in years, the people of Drum Kingdom felt free. As Wapol disappeared into the distance, Chopper's attention quickly shifted to the aftermath of the battle. His keen eyes scanned the area, spotting numerous injured villagers scattered about. His instincts as a doctor kicked in, urging him to help those in need. Without hesitation, Chopper began walking towards the closest injured person, his medical bag at the ready. However, as he approached, the villagers finally took notice of him. Their eyes widened in shock and fear at the sight of the strange creature. A monster, one of the villagers exclaimed, his voice trembling. The word hit Chopper like a physical blow. He froze in his tracks, his eyes wide with hurt and his body trembling. The pain of rejection, a feeling he knew all too well, washed over him once again. But before the situation could escalate, a flying scalpel suddenly whizzed through the air, embedding itself in the ground near the villagers' feet. They jumped back in fright, gasping in surprise. "Who dares call my son a monster?" Dr. Correa's voice rang out, sharp and clear. The old doctor emerged from the crowd, her eyes blazing with anger. "Whoever it was, you'll have to pay triple the medical fee." The villagers looked at each other nervously, no one daring to speak up. "No one?" Dr. Correa continued, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Well then, I guess everyone will get triple the fees for their treatment." This announcement caused an uproar among the villagers, who began protesting and arguing amongst themselves. Dr. Correa ignored their complaints and made her way to Chopper's side, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Don't let their ignorance get to you, Chopper," she said softly, her usual gruff demeanor softening for a moment. "You're a doctor, and right now, these people need your help. Show them what you can do." Chopper looked up at his mentor, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. He nodded, determination replacing the hurt in his expression. With renewed purpose, he turned back to the injured villagers, ready to prove himself not as a monster, but as a skilled and compassionate doctor. As the events unfolded in the village below, Luffy was making his arduous journey up the mountain. His breath came out in visible puffs in the freezing air as he continued his climb, his determination unwavering despite the increasingly difficult conditions. "Man, this is harder than I thought," Luffy muttered through chattering teeth, his straw hat swaying in the bitter wind. He was still wearing his usual vest and shorts, completely inappropriate for the harsh mountain climate. The strain of maintaining his armament haki was beginning to show. The black coating on his arms flickered occasionally, like a candle in the wind. Each time his haki faltered, the biting cold would immediately seep into his rubber body, causing him to shiver violently. "Just gotta keep going," he grunted, pulling himself up another ledge. "I want to meet this awesome Dr. Reindeer, and then he'll definitely join my crew." Despite his optimism, his body was starting to show signs of severe cold exposure. His fingers were becoming numb, making it harder to grip the rocky surface. Sometimes, when his haki failed completely, parts of his body would begin to freeze, his rubber properties making him particularly vulnerable to the extreme temperature. But Luffy's eyes remained fixed upward, filled with the same unwavering determination that had carried him through countless battles. The thought of meeting Chopper and adding a new nakama to his crew gave him the strength to push forward, even as his body protested against the harsh conditions. "A little cold won't stop me from finding my new nakama," he declared to the howling wind, forcing himself to take another step upward on the treacherous mountain face. Back in the village, the Straw Hat crew watched as Chopper methodically treated the injured villagers, his skilled hooves moving with practiced precision despite the earlier tension. Zoro crossed his arms, observing the reindeer's movements. So this is the Dr. Luffy was talking about. No wonder he was so excited. A reindeer that can transform, fight, and heal people. Sanji mused, taking a drag from his cigarette. That idiot captain has a good eye for interesting crew members, I'll give him that. Robin watched with particular interest as Chopper switched between his forms to better treat his patients, using heavy point for carrying injured villagers, brain point for precise medical procedures, and walk point to quickly move between patients. He's quite minted. A zone fruit user with such control over his transformations, and medical expertise to boot. Nami smiled, remembering Luffy's enthusiastic description. Luffy said he was a cool transforming reindeer doctor. I thought he was exaggerating as usual, but he was actually spot on this time, Usopp finished, watching in awe as Chopper expertly stitched a villager's wound. Meanwhile, Vivi noticed how the villagers' initial fear was gradually being replaced by gratitude and amazement as Chopper treated them with gentle care and professional skill. Look how the villagers are changing their attitude, she pointed out. They're starting to see him as a doctor rather than a monster. That rubber brain is probably halfway up the mountain by now, Sanji said, glancing at the towering peak. Freezing his ass off just to recruit this guy. Typical Luffy, Nami sighed, though there was fondness in her voice. He always has to do things the hard way. The crew continued watching Chopper work, now understanding exactly why their captain was so determined to make the reindeer their newest nakama. As the situation in the village calmed down and Chopper continued treating the injured, the Straw Hats gathered around Dalton with concerned expressions. "Dalton-san," Nami began, "we need your help. Our captain is climbing one of these mountains looking for the reindeer doctor, but he doesn't know Chopper is already here." Sanji exhaled a cloud of smoke, looking irritated. That idiot is probably freezing himself half to death up there in his shorts and sandals. "He's using armament hockey to try to keep warm," Zoro added, "but knowing him, he's probably struggling with maintaining it in these conditions." Dalton's eyes widened with concern, his voice echoing the urgency of the situation. "Climbing the mountain in this weather? That's extremely dangerous, even for experienced climbers." "That's Luffy for you," Usopp sighed. "Once he sets his mind on recruiting someone, nothing can stop him." Unknown to them, Dr. Kureha had approached silently and was listening to their conversation with growing interest. Her eyes narrowed when she heard them mention recruiting Chopper. "Oh, so that's what this is about?" She suddenly spoke up, making several of them jump in surprise. "You want to take my apprentice away?" The crew turned to face the elderly doctor, who was taking a long drink from her bottle. "Dr. Kureha!" Dalton exclaimed. "Doctoring." Chopper, who had just finished treating a patient nearby, looked up with surprise. Dr. Kureha's eyes gleamed dangerously. "And what makes you think I'd let you take my son away to become a pirate?" The tension in the air was palpable as the crew faced the intimidating doctor, while somewhere on the mountain, Luffy continued his determined but misguided climb. Dr. Kureha took another swig from her bottle, her eyes sharp despite her seemingly casual demeanor. "So, you're telling me your rubber-brained captain is freezing himself stupid up there just to recruit my Chopper?" "That's right," Zoro replied bluntly, unfazed by her intimidating presence. "Luffy's decided he wants Chopper as our doctor." "Kihihihi." Dr. Kureha laughed. "And what makes you think Chopper would want to be a pirate?" Meanwhile, Chopper had stopped his medical work, his ears perked up as he listened to the conversation. His eyes widened at the mention of becoming a pirate doctor. "Because that's what Luffy does," Nami explained with a slight smile. "He sees something special in people, even when they don't see it themselves." "Yeah," Usopp chimed in, gaining courage. "He's got this weird ability to know exactly who belongs in our crew." Sanji lit another cigarette. "Besides, we've seen how skilled Chopper is, both as a doctor and a fighter." Dr. Kureha's expression became more serious. "Chopper has suffered enough rejection in his life. What makes you think he'd be accepted as a pirate?" "Because we're not just any pirates," Robin spoke up calmly. "We're the Straw Hats, and to us, being different isn't a weakness, it's what makes each of us special." As they spoke, a distant "Yash" echoed from somewhere on the mountain, followed by what sounded suspiciously like someone bouncing off rocks. "That idiot!" Nami facepalmed. "We really need to find him before he hurts himself." Dr. Kureha took another drink, a knowing smirk forming on her face. "Well then, why don't we see what Chopper thinks about all this?" All eyes turned to the reindeer, who was trying, and failing, to hide behind a barrel the wrong way around. "I don't want to be a pirate, you bastards," Chopper yelled from behind the barrel, though he was clearly hiding the wrong way with his body completely exposed. "And I'm not happy that you want me to join your crew either, you jerks." Despite his words, Chopper was doing his happy dance, his body wiggling with obvious joy while trying to maintain his hiding position. "He sure looks like he doesn't want to join," Usopp whispered sarcastically to Nami, who giggled at the reindeer's contradictory behavior. "Wahhhhhhh." A familiar scream suddenly echoed from above, followed by the sound of something rubber bouncing off the mountainside. Gum gum. Rocket. Luffy came crashing down into the village square, covered in snow and shivering violently. His teeth were chattering, but he still managed his signature grin. Flashback to before Luffy arrives. Asterisk as Luffy reached the snow-covered peak, his breath came out in ragged puffs, his haki flickering dangerously. The bitter wind whipped around him as he looked around the empty mountaintop, his usual grin replaced by confusion. Where's the reindeer doctor?" he muttered through chattering teeth. His vision started to blur, the extreme cold seeping into his rubber body whenever his haki failed. Small cuts began appearing on his skin as the freezing temperature made his rubber properties brittle. So cold. Luffy's eyes started to droop. Maybe a little nap. But then, memories flashed through his mind, of Ace scolding him for falling asleep in the snow as kids, of his crew waiting below, and most importantly, of the amazing reindeer doctor he was determined to recruit. No, can't sleep. Luffy forced his eyes open, his trademark grin returning despite his condition. Gotta find my new nakama. Looking down the mountain, he could barely make out the village through the swirling snow. His arms were covered in small cuts from the cold, but that didn't stop him from stretching them back. She. If he's not up here. Luffy's grin widened despite his shivering. Then I'll just have to check down there. Gum. He called out, his voice echoing across the mountain. His arms stretched far behind him, frost forming on his skin. Rocket. Luffy launched himself off the mountain peak, tumbling through the air like a rubber snowball. The wind howled around him as he bounced off rocks and snowbanks, leaving a chaotic trail in his wake. Wahhhhhhh. His scream echoed down the mountain as he pinballed his way toward the village, completely out of control but somehow still laughing through his chattering teeth. This is gonna be awesome, he shouted, right before crashing into the village square where his crew and the very reindeer he'd been searching for were gathered. Flashback end. She. IFF finally found the V village again. He stammered through frozen lips. Hey, where's the cool Dr. Rind? His eyes landed on Chopper, and they immediately turned into sparkles. Sugoi, a transforming reindeer. Ah, a weird human, Chopper screamed, now hiding behind Zoro, still the wrong way. Dr. Kureha watched the scene unfold, taking another swig from her bottle while muttering, well, this should be interesting. Oi, Luffy, Sanji called out. You're supposed to use haki to stay warm, not bounce around like an idiot. But it was faster this way, Luffy replied, still shivering but grinning widely as he stared at Chopper with stars in his eyes. Hey, reindeer. Join my credent in a mix of shock and excitement at Luffy's direct invitation. He frantically waved his hooves, trying to maintain his facade of disinterest. No way, I don't want to be a pirate, Chopper stammered, his voice cracking slightly. I'm a reindeer. I can't live with humans. Luffy, still shivering but undeterred, marched right up to Chopper with his trademark grin. Hey, who cares if you're a reindeer? You're an awesome doctor, and that's what matters. But I'm a monster, Chopper protested, tears welling up in his eyes. Humans will never accept me. Luffy tilted his head, confusion clear on his face. Huh? You're not a monster. You're a Chopper, and my crew already likes you. The Straw Hats nodded in agreement, smiling warmly at the flustered reindeer. Dr. Kureha watched the exchange with a knowing smirk, taking another swig from her bottle. Chopper's resolve was visibly wavering. But I can't just leave doctoring in the village. Luffy's grin widened. Sure you can. We're going on an adventure. There are lots of sick people out there who need a great doctor like you. I. Chopper stammered, clearly torn. Shut up and come with us already, Luffy declared, grabbing Chopper's hoof. You're our nakama now. Chopper exclaimed, shocked by Luffy's forcefulness. Yosh, it's decided. Luffy laughed, ignoring Chopper's protests. Welcome to the crew, Chopper. The other Straw Hats couldn't help but laugh at their captain's typical recruitment method. But I didn't agree yet, Chopper wailed, though he made no move to pull his hoof away from Luffy's grip. She. Details, Luffy grinned, already dragging Chopper towards the ship. Let's go on an adventure. As they walked away, Chopper's protests gradually turned into excited questions about their upcoming journey, his eyes shining with poorly concealed enthusiasm. Dr. Kureha watched them go, a bittersweet smile on her face. That boy, she muttered, he's just like you, Hylaluk. Taking my idiot son on a grand adventure. And so, despite his initial protests, Chopper found himself swept up in Luffy's pace, embarking on a new chapter of his life as the doctor of the Straw Hat Pirates. Just as Luffy was celebrating his successful recruitment of Chopper, his body suddenly went rigid. The adrenaline that had kept him going finally wore off, and the full effects of his reckless mountain climb caught up with him. She. Now we can go on Advent. Luffy's signature laugh cut off abruptly as he collapsed face first into the snow. "Luffy!" The Straw Hats cried out in unison. "Captain San!" Robin rushed forward. "That idiot!" Sanji growled, though concern was evident in his voice. Chopper immediately switched to his doctor mode, kneeling beside Luffy. His body temperature is dangerously low, and these cuts from the cold. "Ah! Luffy's dying!" Usopp screamed, running in circles. "Shut up and help!" Nami shouted, smacking Usopp on the head. Dr. Kureha calmly walked over, taking a swig from her bottle before examining Luffy. Her experienced eyes quickly assessed his condition. "Kihihihi," she laughed. "Your captain's quite the reckless one, isn't he? Climbed the mountain in shorts and sandals." "Will he be okay, Doctorine?" Chopper asked anxiously. Dr. Kureha smirked. "Of course. He just needs some proper medicine and warmth. His rubber body is more susceptible to cold, but nothing we can't handle." She turned to the villagers. "Get him inside, and bring plenty of blankets." As they carried Luffy into a nearby house, Dr. Kureha glanced at Chopper. "Well, are you going to stand there, or are you going to help treat your new captain?" Chopper's eyes widened, and then he nodded firmly. "Right, I need hot water, clean bandages, and my medical bag." "That's my apprentice," Dr. Kureha smiled proudly, watching as Chopper took charge of the situation. Zoro crossed his arms, looking at his unconscious captain. Only Luffy would freeze himself half to death just to recruit someone. "And succeed," Robin added with a small smile. As they worked to treat Luffy, his face remained peaceful, his signature grin still visible even in unconsciousness. Somehow, even while passed out, he managed to keep a firm grip on Chopper's hoof, as if making sure his new nakama wouldn't get away. As the harmonic air around Luffy collapsed from climbing the mountain and coming down at a fast speed, everyone panicked when Luffy collapsed. Dr. Kureha came to look at him and said he just needed some medicine and a warm place as he was freezing. The scene shifts to Luffy waking up after a day of sleeping, with Zoro sleeping in the corner and Chopper dozing in a chair beside the bed. Just then, Nami enters the room. "Nami." Luffy grins weakly. "I thought I was gonna die. She. Climbing that mountain was harder than I thought." A vein pops on Nami's forehead as anger flares in her eyes. Remembering how worried they all were when Luffy ran off without telling them about the villagers being attacked by pirates. "You idiot," she explodes, her fist raised threateningly. "Do you have any idea how worried we were? You just disappeared without saying anything." But I had to find Chopper," Luffy replies innocently. "The villagers were attacked by pirates," Nami continues, her anger building. "And where were you? Off climbing mountains in shorts." "Pirates?" Luffy's eyes light up. "Did I miss a fight? That's not fair?" "That's not the point." Nami's fist comes down on Luffy's head, leaving a comical bump. The commotion wakes both Zoro and Chopper, who jump up in doctor mode. "Ah, Nami, don't hit him. He's still recovering," Chopper panics. She. "Sorry for worrying you, Nami." Luffy grins despite the bump on his head. "But look, I got us an awesome doctor." Nami sighs in exasperation, but can't help the small smile forming on her face. "You're impossible, you know that?" "Yosh, now that I'm awake, let's go on an adventure," Luffy declares, trying to jump out of bed but getting tangled in the blankets instead. As the commotion from Nami hitting Luffy continues, the rest of the crew begins filing into the room, drawn by the noise. "Sanji, meet!" Luffy shouts immediately upon seeing the cook, his eyes sparkling with hunger. "Shut up, you rubber idiot," Sanji retorts, though he's already pulling out some dried meat from his pocket, knowing his captain's appetite. "You just woke up from nearly freezing to death." "Luffy-san, you should rest more," Vivi says worriedly, with Karoo quacking in agreement beside her. The great Captain Usopp agrees. Usopp declares, striking a pose, "After all, I once survived 3 weeks in the snow with nothing but my—" "Liar," Nami interrupts flatly. Robin chuckles softly. Foo, Captain San certainly knows how to cause a commotion." Just then, Dalton enters the room, ducking slightly to fit through the doorway. "Bull Awesome." Luffy greets him enthusiastically, bits of meat flying from his mouth as he speaks. "Thanks for taking care of my crew while I was being stupid." "Swallow before you speak," Nami yells, hitting him again. It was no trouble, Dalton replies with a smile, watching the crew's interactions with amusement. Though I must say, you have quite an interesting group here. She. They're the best, Luffy grins, already reaching for more meat from Sanji. And now we have Chopper too. Chopper, who had been trying to maintain his doctor's composure, breaks into his happy dance. Shut up. Calling me the best doesn't make me happy at all, you bastard. The room fills with laughter at the reindeer's contradictory behavior, the warm atmosphere a stark contrast to the cold mountain air outside. As the laughter dies down, Nami's expression turns serious. Luffy, we need to leave the island as soon as possible. Alabasta is waiting for us. Yosh. You're right. Luffy nods, his face lighting up. Now that we've got Chopper, it's time to set sail. However, Chopper's expression becomes hesitant, his eyes darting between his new crew and Dr. Kureha. Ra notices this and speaks up. Captain San, there's something you should know. Wapol escaped and threatened to return with world government backing. The crew's faces grow serious at this news. That bastard, Sanji growls, lighting a cigarette. We can't just leave the island like this, Usopp adds, his knees shaking slightly. Nami's eyes suddenly light up. Luffy, why not ask your grandfather or father for help? Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji nod in agreement, knowing the power Luffy's family holds. Luffy-san's family? Vivi asks, curiosity evident in her voice. Robin and Dalton also look intrigued, wondering what kind of family could help against a threat from the world government. Just as Luffy opens his mouth to respond, Dr. Kureha bursts into the room, her eyes gleaming dangerously. What's this about leaving? She demands, taking a swig from her ever-present bottle. Who said you could take my apprentice? Doctorine, Chopper exclaims, caught between excitement for his new adventure and guilt about leaving. She. We're pirates, old lady, Luffy grins. We don't need permission. Luffy, Nami scolds, smacking him on the head. Don't antagonize her. Kihihihi. Dr. Kureha laughs. You've got guts, boy. But what about this world government threat? Oh, that? Luffy says casually, picking his nose. I guess I could ask Gramps or Dad for help. They're pretty strong. That's an understatement, Usopp shrieks. Luffy-san, Vivi asks hesitantly. Who exactly are your grandfather and father? Before Luffy can answer, Zoro cuts in with a smirk. His Gramps is a marine hero, and his dad's the most wanted man in the world. The room falls silent for a moment before erupting into chaos. EHHH. Vivi, Robin, and Dalton exclaim in unison. Kihihihi. Interesting family you've got there, boy, Dr. Kureha cackles. She. Yep, Luffy grins, oblivious to the shock he's caused. So, can we go now? I want to start our next adventure. Hold it right there, Dr. Kureha commands, her eyes fixing on Nami and Usopp. You two, come with me. Why us? Usopp squeaks, hiding behind Nami. Don't question me, brat, Dr. Kureha snaps, already walking out. Just follow. But Nami starts to protest. Now, yes ma'am, both Nami and Usopp scramble after her, leaving the others behind. In the room, Robin, Vivi, and Dalton are still trying to process the bombshell about Luffy's family. Most wanted man in the world. Robin mutters, her historian's mind racing. Dragon the Revolutionary? And marine hero Garp, Dalton adds, looking pale. That's quite the lineage. No wonder Luffy-san is so strong, Vivi whispers, remembering all the incredible things she's seen him do. She. They're both crazy though, Luffy laughs, still picking his nose. Gramps tried to throw me off a cliff once for training. What kind of training is that? Vivi shrieks. Foo, your family certainly sounds interesting, Captain San, Robin comments, trying to hide her amazement. Sanji takes a drag from his cigarette. You don't know the half of it. Zoro just smirks, watching the shocked expressions with amusement while wondering what the old witch wants with Nami and Usopp. In the meantime, Dr. Kureha leads Nami, Usopp, and the villagers up the winding path to the castle, her eyes gleaming with mischief. The makeshift cart creaks and groans under their weight, but manages to make it to the top. Oi, Usopp whispers to Nami, what do you think the old witch is up to? Shish, Nami hisses back, eyeing Dr. Kureha nervously. As they enter the castle, the group comes to a halt in front of a massive, ornate door. A complex lock system adorns its surface, looking both ancient and impenetrable. Dr. Kureha turns to Nami and Usopp, a sly grin spreading across her face. "You two," she says, pointing at them with her bottle. "You look like the type who know how to, shall we say, creatively open things like this." Nami's eyes widen in surprise, while Usopp's knees start shaking. What are you talking about?" Usopp stammers, his nose growing slightly longer. "We're just innocent pirates, I mean, travelers." Kihihihi. Dr. Kureha cackles. "Don't play dumb with me, brats. I've been around long enough to spot a thief and a liar when I see them." Nami sighs, realizing there's no point in denying it. Fine. But what's in it for us if we open this door?" "Nami," Usopp yelps, shocked at her easy admission. "Oh ho." Dr. Kureha grins wider. "A negotiator, eh? I like you, girl. How about this? You open the door, and I'll forgive all the medical bills your crew has racked up. Deal?" Nami's eyes turn to Belly's signs, already calculating the savings. And Dr. Kureha adds, "I might have a little treasure in there for you as well." "Treasure?" Nami exclaims, her hands already reaching for her lockpicks. "Why didn't you say so earlier? Stand back, everyone. The master thief Nami is on the job." Oi, Usopp mutters, "Aren't we supposed to be turning over a new leaf as pirates?" But Nami is already hard at work, her fingers dancing over the lock with practiced ease, while Dr. Kureha watches with an amused glint in her eye. As the lock clicks open with a satisfying sound, the heavy doors slowly creak apart, revealing a vast chamber filled with ancient weapons and military equipment. Hooah! Usopp's eyes sparkle at the sight of the weaponry. "This is amazing, look at all these cannons." Kihihihihi. Dr. Kureha walks in, her boots echoing against the stone floor. "This is the royal armory of Drum Kingdom. That fool Wapple took the key when he ran away." Nami looks around, slightly disappointed. "Where's the treasure?" Dr. Kureha's eyes twinkle mischievously as she responds to Nami's question. "The treasure, my dear, is helping me of course." EHHHHH. Nami's jaw drops comically, her eyes bulging out. "That's not treasure at all." Usopp facepalms, muttering, "I should have known." Dr. Kureha cackles, "Kihihihi. Did you really think I'd just hand over gold and jewels? The real treasure is the experience, brats." Nami slumps to the ground, a gloomy aura surrounding her. "I've been tricked, my precious Belly." Oi, Nami, Usopp tries to console her. "At least we're not paying those medical bills, right?" Suddenly, Nami springs back up, fire in her eyes. "You're right, we're still saving money." As Dr. Kureha opens the armory, she turns to Nami and Usopp with a mischievous grin. "All right, you two can head back now. I've got some business to attend to with the villagers." "Hey, but what about—" Nami starts to protest, but Dr. Kureha cuts her off. "Kihihihi, don't worry, girl. A deal's a deal, now scram." As Nami and Usopp reluctantly leave, Dr. Kureha turns to the villagers with a glint in her eye. "All right, you lot. Let's get these cannons into position. And be careful with that pink powder, it's the result of that quack doctor's research." Back at the ship, the Straw Hats are preparing to set sail. Luffy is bouncing around excitedly, while the others are loading supplies. "Yosh, time for our next adventure," Luffy grins, stretching his arms. Chopper, however, looks hesitant. "Wait, I need to say goodbye to Doctoring first." Just as Chopper turns to head back to the castle, a loud explosion echoes across the island. The crew looks up in surprise, their eyes widening at the sight before them. The sky above Drum Island is suddenly filled with a spectacular display of pink cherry blossoms, floating gently down from the clouds. The snow-covered landscape is transformed into a sea of pink, creating a breathtaking contrast against the white mountains. Chopper's eyes fill with tears as he realizes what Dr. Kureha has done. "Doctoring. Dr. Hylaluk," he whispers, his voice choked with emotion. The rest of the crew stares in awe at the beautiful scene, their faces a mix of surprise and wonder. Vivi gasps softly, her hand covering her mouth. Robin's eyes widen slightly, a rare look of genuine amazement on her face. Zoro and Sanji, usually so composed, can't help butte. Nami and Usopp, having just returned from the castle, are equally stunned. It's beautiful, Nami breathes. While Luffy is impressed by the sight, there's a hint of recognition in his eyes, as if he's seen a memory come to life. His usual grin is replaced by a softer, more contemplative smile. Chopper, meanwhile, is openly weeping, his eyes fixed on the castle where he knows Dr. Kureha is watching. "Doctorine. Thank you," he sobs. Luffy puts a comforting hand on Chopper's shoulder. "You got some amazing people looking out for you, Chopper, she. The crew stands in silence for a moment, allowing Chopper his emotional farewell and marveling at the beauty of the scene. Even though Luffy had described it to them before, seeing it in person is a truly magical experience. As the last of the cherry blossoms fall, Luffy's grin widens. "Yosh, now we've all seen it together. Time for our next adventure." The others nod in agreement, ready to set sail with their new Nakama, leaving behind a drum island forever changed by the Straw Hats' visit and Dr. Hylaluk's dream finally realized.